What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8FG. Chapter 100 New 4 Emperors, Marine Supreme Meeting held. Advertise here. Home of Whitebeard. Since it is decided to go to war, then start recruiting troops. Marco said calmly. Although the Crusaders didn't have much combat power before, they only relied on those few monsters, but after defeating Kaido, they accepted Kaido's territory and most of the forces, and now they must not be underestimated. If you want to fight head-on with the Crusaders, then leave it to us, idiot. Marco said with a smile. I'll be in charge of recruiting people. The strength of the Whitebeard pirates is still very strong, and they were beaten back and forth, purely because there was no top leader to stop them. Now the Straw Hat Pirates have no shortage of top combat power. With their assistance, the crusade against the Cross Union has a certain chance of winning. Of course, their Whitebeard pirates can only be said to be icing on the cake. What really determines the real outcome of this war is the battle between Luffy and the Cross Union powerhouses. Marineford. The naval headquarters, which was destroyed by the Golden Lion, is still covered with scaffolding used for building repairs. In the Marine meeting room. At this moment, a group of people gathered in a cloud. Marine's older generation of strong men, the supreme fighters, and the elite headquarters of Vice Admiral. Only the strong of the older generation and the Admiral level can sit here. Except for Garp and Crane, all players at the Tianzhong level can only stand. This is Marine's highest internal meeting. In this situation where the sea is turbulent and the Marine forces are seriously insufficient, to advance this kind of meeting can only show that the content of the meeting is too important. It is so important that Marine puts all the things at hand aside. In Nuo Da's meeting room, Sengoku took the main seat. On his side are Aokiji and Akainu. Below that are Garp, Crane, Zephyr, Kizaru, Yishao, and Aramu, the most powerful men recruited from the two worlds. Yishao is a tall and strong middle-aged man with a 6'7" figure, holding a stick and sword in his hand, and what is even more surprising is that he is blind. The position of the eyes is covered by hideous scars. On the other side, Huangmu is a man who looks a bit rebellious, with high eyebrows, lowered eyelids, thick lips, and the 4 characters, Death Heart, engraved on his bare chest. He is also an unknown top powerhouse who was recruited by the world's big conscription. He is also judged to have Admiral-level combat power. At the moment they are sitting in chairs. Others, even Admiral, a substitute like Momosuke, can only stand. The other headquarters, Vice Admiral, looked at this scene with flickering eyes, and already expected it in their hearts. It seems that the headquarters has indeed decided to directly promote these two unknown powerhouses who came from the world's great conscription to the Admiral level. Brannis, send the information down. Sengoku sat on the main seat and said solemnly. Yes. Brandon saluted, and then distributed a thick stack of information to all the Marine generals present. This is impossible. Is this really what's going on in New World these days? One after another, exclamations sounded in the meeting room, even with a little panic. It's hard to imagine what kind of information can make this group of Marine elite vice admirals, who have experienced many battles, show a slightly frightened expression. Not only the vice admirals, but even Garp and he, the older generation of Marine powerhouses who are used to seeing big winds and waves, can't help but feel a little dignified looking at the information in front of them at this moment. Is the information actually true? Sengoku, this is a joke. Crane asked. Ah, it's completely confirmed. Sengoku said. The news was confirmed through various information channels, and the credibility is completely sufficient. After a few days, this kind of news should not be considered very confidential. That's troublesome. Zephyr said. That guy, Golden Lion, actually had such an idea. He miscalculated, but it really made him succeed. Does he want to repeat the actions of Rocks? What a crazy man. He has been dormant for 20 years and finally took the first step of revenge. Garp looked at the information in his hand, sighed softly, his eyes were full of seriousness. Rocks, what a long name. What is recorded in the intelligence is the big event that happened in New World. The Golden Lion and the defeated 4 emperors Kaido appeared in the 10,000 Kingdoms. And, Jin DM, Kaido of the Beasts, officially formed the Pirate Alliance. This is news enough to make the world panic. 4 emperors plus a legend from the old era, still the kind of legend that stood at the top of the old era. Once upon a time when Luogia didn't become One Piece. Golden Lion is one of the 3 legendary pirates along with Luogia and Whitebeard. Later, in the Battle of Atwal, Golden Lion was defeated, and Luogia became the One Piece not long after. This is the era of Luogia. After Luogia's death, the Golden Lion was arrested, and Whitebeard's era followed. The Golden Lion is powerful enough to name a man of an era. Plus the 4 emperors, among the Marines present, no one thinks that after the 4 emperors are defeated, they won't be scary anymore. Legend has it that the pirates plus 4 emperors, this configuration is simply terrifying to the extreme. Not to mention, these people are all in their peak state now, not when they were in the Rocks, they haven't really grown up yet. It can be said that the Rocks pirate may not be as scary as the pirate alliance formed by Golden Lion and the others. Before he knew it, when the old and new eras of pirates merged, Marine discovered that the power of pirates was already so terrifying. Trouble. Garp's face was a little dignified, he knew how powerful the Rocks pirate was back then. The current pirate alliance is only stronger than the original Rocks. Go on and look down. Sengoku did not publish any recommendations. The Straw Hat Pirates took over the remnants of Whitebeard, and the Cross Guild took over the Kaido forces, and the two sides are about to start a war. Another piece of news that is enough to shock the world. Straw Hat Pirates, everyone here is not a stranger. In the Summit War, the Straw Hat Pirates left a deep impression on all the Marines, and also caused their fiasco. Even Yishao and Aramu, who just joined Marine, have heard of the name of the Straw Hat Pirates. The amazing performance of Summit War, and the feat of defeating the BIGMOM pirates just recently entered New World. It can be said that the Straw Hat Pirates are now the eye of the storm of the times. They gathered the attention of most people in this world. The Straw Hat Pirates are already very strong. If they accept the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates, they will be really scary. Zephyr flipped through the information in his hand. He fought in Summit War. It was really a ship full of monsters, a ship doctor, a pet with a reward of 50 Baileys, who was able to erupt that kind of terrifying power to stop him abruptly. Later, Zephyr went to investigate the details of the Straw Hat Pirates in detail. The more you understand, the more incredible you feel. This pirate group is young and frightening, and the speed of growth is jaw-dropping. This pirate group seems to have a strange magic power. The speed at which the strength of the crew members on this ship improves seems to be evolving. Zephyr remembered the information he had investigated. Straw Hat Luffy, a year ago, was only as powerful as a pirate with a bounty of 20 to 30 million. A year ago, Roronoa was just a small bounty hunter of East Blue. Although he had some fame, it was limited to the weakest East Blue. Blackfoot Sanji, the abandoned son of Vince's Moke family, was unable to defeat even the pirate with a bounty of more than 10 million a year ago. Tony Chopper, no one was famous before. All the other members, it can be said, except for Hexia Jinbei who joined the Fishman Island, and Devil's son Robin, the others have no fame at all, they are all little people. However, it is this group of little people, after a year, their strength has advanced by leaps and bounds and stood at the top of the sea. Compared to their age, they can be called terrible. What makes Marine and the world government a little relieved is that their time at sea is very short, their background is too poor, and they are just a small pirate group with only a few people. But if all of these are combined with the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, the threat to the world is not as simple as 1+1. The terrifying single-player strength of the Straw Hat Pirates, plus the large number of cadres and elite pirates of the Whitebeard Pirates. It can be said that they have become a very large combat group. The strength of this force is even far greater than that of any Four Emperors pirate group. The Cross Guild is also very troublesome, those lawless fellows, everyone present here must also know their strength. The Crane tapped the table lightly. World, Bullet, Hawkeye, Crocodile, Gecko Moria, they are a powerful monster alliance that is not inferior to the Straw Hat Pirates. Now they have completely taken over Kaido's territory history. In my opinion, their strength has far surpassed the former Four Emperors pirate group, and I am afraid that even compared to the alliance formed by the Golden Lion, they are not much inferior. Such a war between two huge combat forces, I am afraid that if we are not careful, it will exceed our control and cause a huge disaster. Crane said. The New World is not limited to non-affiliated countries and Four Emperors, there are also quite a few countries that are members of the world government in New World. After all, New World's resources are very rich. Once those joining countries are affected by this huge war, the prestige of the world government will be hit by arrogance among the joining countries. Don't worry, Luffy is not the kind of person who provokes wars everywhere. I think this war will be kept within a certain range and will not spread to other countries. Garp said. Garp, don't let your personal feelings cloud your judgment. Sengoku said flatly. As the grandfather of Straw Hat, Garp's suggestion does not have any reference value. Moreover, such an important event cannot be judged purely based on such a character. The war between the forces of the Four Emperors still touches the nerves of the world. But in comparison, the union of the Four Emperors is actually even more frightening. Why did the meeting between Whitebeard and the Red Hair touch the nerves of so many people? Even 5 elders paid attention to it. It is because, between Whitebeard and Redhead, there is indeed a chance of joining forces. If they join forces, this situation is the last thing 5 elders and Marine want to see. The overall strength of pirates is actually very strong. Marine can suppress the top-level combat power, but under the top-level combat power, Marine and pirates. There is no comparison. There are only 2 Marines in the rank of alternate admirals, but in the world of pirates, there are definitely many more than Marines. The combination of the 2 Four Emperors pirates is enough to counter most of the current Marine forces. The point is, Four Emperors don't need to disperse a large amount of power to defend some alliance countries and arrest pirates like Marine. The mobility of such powerful emperors is also very reliable. Scared. And now, those fears at the beginning have clearly come true. Not only did it come true, but it was even worse than originally expected. The Golden Lion and BIGMOM Kaido's alliance, the Straw Hat Pirates and the Whitebeard remnants joined forces, and the Cross Guild took over Kaido's territory and forces in its entirety. The strength of any of these three alliances is not weaker than the possible combination of Whitebeard and Redhead that was originally speculated, and may even be stronger. If we say that the former Marine Vice Admiral generals were only a little flustered when they saw that Golden Lion wanted to restore the Rocks Pirate Alliance. Then at this moment, after learning that the Straw Hat Boys teamed up with the remnants of Whitebeard, the Tianzi Union absorbed Kaido's territory. They were completely panicked. It can be said that they have never felt the power of pirates so intuitively like they are now. To put it bluntly, formerly the Four Emperors Regiment. Now it is equivalent to the Four Emperors of the New World, which has become the Golden Lion Alliance, the Straw Hat Alliance, the Cross Union, and the Four Emperors Red Hair Pirates who were not defeated in the end. And here, the first three factions can all beat the previous two Four Emperors regiments steadily. In such a comparison, the horror is very obvious. Quiet, Sengoku said in a deep voice. What are you afraid of? What about the turmoil in the New World? Isn't the big conscription in our world a more difficult situation? Branju, go ahead, Sengoku said in a low voice. Branju pulled out a projection phone bug and projected a PPT track in front of everyone. Currently, this is a document made by the General Staff Department on the assessment of the danger level of New World forces. Branju pointed to the message on the projection screen. The number 1 ranking in terms of strength and threat is the alliance between Golden Lion BIGMOM and Kaido of the Beasts. Among them, the power of Golden Lion is relatively mysterious. At present, only Golden Lion is known, but his ability is absolutely strategic and very difficult to deal with. Although the BIGMOM pirates were defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates, they did not suffer too much loss. The fleet still exists, and the cadres have not been reduced. There is almost no loss, and the combat power is well preserved. Quote. The last is the remnants of the Beasts pirates led by Kaido of the Beasts. Because Wano Kuni is completely occupied by the Cross Union, Kaido's forces have lost 1.2 days. However, the loss of the cadres is not much. The core of the 3 disasters and the 6 volleys are still there, but it is worth mentioning that Jack the Drow, one of the 3 disasters, has disappeared. The hands appear to be from the Crusaders. Quote. The second place is the Cross Union, which has received Kaido's power, plus the strength of Bullet, Burndy World, and Hawkeye. It is worth mentioning that due to various reasons, the bounties for World, Bullet, Hawkeye, Crocodile, and Gecko Moria are low, and they are readjusted at this moment. World Destroyer Burndy World, the bounty has been raised to 4 billion berry. The heir to the ghost, Douglas Bullet, has raised his bounty to 4.2 billion berry. Hawkeye Mahawk, the bounty has been raised to 3.9 billion berry. Crocodile, the bounty has been raised to 1.937 billion berry. Gecko Moria, the bounty has been raised to 1.53 billion berry. And the last apprentice crew member of the Luogia Pirates, the Clown Buggy, has raised the bounty to 100,500,000 berry. What a high bounty. As soon as the bounty offered by the members of the Crusaders was released, the Marine generals present were shocked instantly. This bounty is due. When the bounty was raised on a large scale before, after the Summit War, facing the collective bounty increase of the Straw Hat Pirates, the increase was already very strong. But this time, the Cross Trade Union has made greater efforts to promote it. It is said that the Red Hair Pirates are the Iron Wall Pirates with an average bounty, but compared with the Cross Guild, there is still a gap. Even the Straw Hat Pirates can't compare to the comprehensive bounties of the 6 core members of the Cross Guild. If it is said that the Marine generals just knew that the Cross Union was very strong, but they did not have an intuitive feeling. So at this moment, once the sky-high price is offered, the feeling is very intuitive. Chapter 101. The Straw Hat vs. The Cross. Advertise here. The last one in the list of threats is the Straw Hat Kid. Brandon pointed to the information on the last Straw Hat Pirates and the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates. These materials were well known to everyone present. After all, the bounty offered by the Straw Hat Pirates spread throughout the world after the Summit War, without too many adjustments. In addition to these 3 emerging pirate alliances with terrifying strength, there is another important piece of information, that is, the Revolutionary Army has recently secretly summoned 4 Legion commanders, and they are shrinking their strength. I don't know what big action there will be. Quote. Revolutionary Army. He fixed his eyes and sighed. He is a bunch of troublesome guys. And Crane couldn't help but focus on Garp. Not just Crane, but also Zephyr, Sengoku. Maybe other people don't know, but the 3 old comrades of Garp know very well that the full name of the leader of the Revolutionary Army is Monkey D. Dragon. Is Garp's own son, a grandson, will now be the New World and the first half of the Grand Line. But Garp is still a very high-status Marine hero. This family is really wonderful. The 3 major forces of the Marine Pirate Revolutionary Army can be regarded as taking over. We don't need to control the Revolutionary Army. The CP organization above will mobilize all forces to fight against the Revolutionary Army. However, if you encounter the Revolutionary Army during the mission, you must immediately report to the government. Brandon explained. Then, my intelligence reporting work is over. Brandon said respectfully to Sengoku. Thanks a lot. After Brandon went down, Sengoku paused, and then spoke in a low voice. I believe that everyone here already has a concrete understanding of the crisis level of the current sea situation. It is no exaggeration to say that the current sea, especially the New World, is completely out of our control. The pirates are too powerful. With our current marine strength, we can't resist at all. Therefore, we have launched a global conscription. What we need most now is strength, not regular development. I suggest that Yishao and Wangmu, who came from the world's big conscription, be directly awarded the rank of Admiral. Their strength has been tested by me and Garp. In terms of strength, they are definitely at the Admiral level. Then, vote 26 now, and those who disagree can express their opinions. Sengoku said in a low voice. The above means that the Admiral rank is directly forcibly awarded. But as the Marshal of Marine, Sengoku knows that this rough way will definitely cause dissatisfaction among most people. So he laid some groundwork on this basis, and now it seems that the effect is very good. Under high pressure, originally unfair and unjust policies can now be implemented smoothly. After a while, he looked at the meeting room without any objection with satisfaction. Then, starting today, Yishao and Wangmu will confer the rank of Marine Admiral and enjoy all the rights and obligations of this Admiral. The old man deserves it. Fujitora bowed slightly, and said calmly and steadily. His calm voice, approachable demeanor, coupled with his being a blind man and his simple and honest appearance, easily attracted the favor of most people. On the contrary, it was Huang Emu's unruly expression that some marine generals couldn't see. But they trust Garp and Sengoku, at least this person is guaranteed in terms of strength. In addition to the Admiral title of the World Conscript, there is one more thing that must be decided, that is, the establishment of the position of Marshal. This matter is a major event for the entire Marine, and it has been fermenting for many days. The headquarters and most of the grassroots generals support Kuzan, while the 5 elders at the top support Sakazuki by name. There was an amazing collision between the supremacy of the superior and the popular aspiration of the executor. The powerful Marine, after so many years of development, has already grasped a certain right to speak in the hands of 5 elders. Otherwise, as in the past, the above directly designated Sakazuki as Yuan. Rather than the current situation of fighting against each other. Sengoku's voice fell. Kuzan and Sakazuki couldn't help looking at each other, they could see the unyielding meaning in each other's eyes. I'll ask one last time, Kuzan, Sakazuki, neither of you opted out, did you? Sengoku asked. I'm sorry, Mr. Sengoku, I usually don't want to argue, but this time, I have a reason to become the Marine Marshal. Aokiji said with firm eyes. It's the same for me. The current Marine is too weak, and it's impossible to completely eliminate the pirates like this. Akainu also had firm eyes, and his voice was low and full of pressure. I see. Sengoku stared, his expression became extremely serious, he took a deep breath and said loudly. Then, you two, Kuzan, Sakazuki, proceed to the King of Life and Death. The winner becomes the Marine Marshal, the loser is speechless. Sengoku's words, like a boulder, instantly stirred up huge waves in this conference room. Everyone was a little unwilling to believe their ears. A life and death duel between admirals. This was never heard of before. Marshal Sengoku, isn't this too dramatic? Between Admiral, isn't this internal friction? A life and death battle or something? Sengoku, do you want to think about it again? Obviously, even Garp and Zephyr did not expect that Sengoku would be able to choose such a way. Stop arguing, the position of Marine Marshal is not so easy to bear, since you have chosen, then try to ascend to this position with the determination to die. Sengoku roared loudly, I won't back down. Aokiji's will did not fluctuate due to the duel of life and death. Just what I want. Akainu tilted his neck and said with a fighting spirit. 3 days later. Home of Whitebeard. On this remote and peaceful, beautiful island. The top of a hill. The top of this mountain is full of sakura flower trees, and sakura flowers are dancing all over the sky at the moment. What a nice view. Nami couldn't help but marvel at the beauty in front of him. My father's hometown is a small island with a fixed climate. There are no 4 seasons. The climate here is mild all year round, which is very suitable for the growth of sakura flower trees, so there will be unplanned flowers falling here every day. 1. This is also Dad's favorite place, so we buried him here. Marco explained. And, do you know? After Luo Jia became One Piece, he specially came to drink with his father, and he drank under the sakura tree here. Luo Jia, the friendship between 2 great figures gives people a very legendary feeling. Usopp couldn't help being a little surprised. This place is indeed a very suitable place for drinking. Holding a wine bottle in his hand, Zoro watched the sakura flowers falling around him, and the grass on the ground was clean and comfortable. This grass covered with a layer of sakura flower petals looks very comfortable. Mild sunshine, if you can sleep after drinking and drinking like this, it is really an excellent experience. Arrive. Walking out of the sakura flower forest, the mild sunlight is shining. What appeared in front of Luffy and the others was a huge naginata and a huge white cloak. There are also garlands on it. This is the eternal resting place of the legendary pirate Whitebeard. Built on a cliff in his hometown, here, you can easily overlook the interior of the entire island, with the beautiful sakura flower forest behind you. Above is the warm sunshine all year round. There is no gloomy feeling of the cemetery, only an ultimate gentleness. Coming here, even Luffy with a hippie smile couldn't help putting away the smile on his face and becoming solemn. Uncle Whitebeard, long time no see. Luffy poured down a glass of wine lightly. Although we only got along with Whitebeard for a few days, this uncle left a very deep impression on Luffy. That kind of hardy and heroic character. After his death, Luffy never saw a man as bold as Whitebeard. His boldness is not only on the outside, but also on the inside, a heart as broad as the sea. The members of the Straw Hat Pirates behind them also poured down the wine in their hands lightly. Facing this legendary pirate, they only have respect in their hearts at this moment. Father will be very happy to see you, you have grown up again, the wave of the new era he is looking forward to has already rolled in. Marco stood beside Luffy and said with emotion. Behind Marco, Ace, Vista, Josie, and the captains of the Whitebeard Pirates are fully assembled at this moment. Their target is Wano. Let's go, Straw Hat Boy, you have helped us a lot in Marineford, this time it's our turn to help you. Marco smiled. Behind him, the captains of the Whitebeard Pirates, each with an expression of no hesitation on their faces. Oh, let's go, to Wano. Luffy put the straw hat on his head and smiled. Wano. Zoro chanted this word, he always felt as if he had seen this somewhere, not Ryoma, but earlier. But since you didn't think about it, it doesn't matter. He has only one goal, and that is Hawkeye. I miss you so much, Wano. Ace's eyes were a little excited. The promise he made was finally about to be fulfilled, but he didn't know if it was already too late. Let's go, Wano. Wano, the capital of flowers. Lord Crocodile. Shouts of cheers came from all directions. Crocodile stood at the very top of the palace, with open arms, enjoying the cheers of the crowd. He's kind of addicted to this feeling. This feeling of being the king of a country. Maybe it's because he was used to pretending when he was in Alabasta, but now he quite enjoys the role of the hero of this country. Speaking up, the people of Wano are too easy to please compared to Alabasta. After all, King Cobra of Alabasta is a wise king, and he can only provoke war by making the whole country reclaimed. And Wano has been persecuted by Kaido and Kurozumi Orochi for too long. After Crocodile collected some information, he realized that the Kurozumi snake is not without the ability to govern the country. It's that he hates this country and everyone in this country, so all his means are to make this country more impoverished and miserable. Before adding the Kurozumi Orochi, when the Kazuki clan ruled for hundreds of years, the management of the entire Wano was very backward and poor. To be honest, the public's recognition of Kazuki's family is not particularly high. In other words, the prestige of the Kazuki family is relatively high only in the capital of flowers, and the prestige in other places is very low. Crocodile just changed some welfare policies by killing Kurozumi Orochi and releasing the food stored by Kurozumi Orochi. The prestige of the Crusaders in Wano has increased a lot in an instant, and Crocodile has also become the hero of Wano. In addition to completely ascending the throne, he can almost be said to be the uncrowned king. After all, people are a group that tends to benefit, and whoever gives enough benefits will be able to gain love. Moreover, this kind of loss to the people is not unreasonable. After actually taking over Wano, Crocodile realized how huge the interests of Wano are. No wonder Kaido operates with Wano at its core. The artisans here, the climate here, the geography here, and the rare resources here make the entire Wano a huge treasury of value created after Kaido opened Wano hub to the outside world. Simply huge and scary. Those given to the people are just a little bit of value created, which is enough to make the people of Wano grateful. Crocodile's next plan is to find a time to completely reform the famous minister of the country, Wano. He didn't like the name at first, it was a little unpleasant. The other is to completely erase the traces of the Kazuki family, and other so-called regional rulers in this place. The next step is to get rid of the samurai power bit by bit. This is also very simple, the interests of wooing and suppressing 167 can make this backward group quietly disband in the huge collective. That guy is really good at this. Gecko Moria looked at Crocodile slightly envious. This used to be his hot spot. However, he is not as good as Crocodile in management, and there is also a gap in strength, so this position, after Bullet, World, and Hawkeye, is Crocodile's turn. Get rich. Buggy stood aside, his whole body swollen a lot. The huge red robe was supported by his torn limbs, and the whole person was like a little giant. Needless to say, from this point of view, his momentum has indeed increased a lot, and he looks a little bit like a strong man. He had a wretched smile on his face at the moment. Hands full of gemstone rings. They directly and completely received Kaido's accumulation and made a fortune. Bullet and the others don't pay much attention to these things, and no one cares about Buggy taking it casually. He feels that he is so happy now. Unlike Buggy, Gecko Moria has a different mind. At this moment, Bullet, World, Hawkeye's face does not have so many expressions, only calm. This kind of calm is like saving something, just like the calm before the storm. You really caused a big problem this time, Bullet. There seemed to be a shadow on World's face, and he looked at Bullet with very dark and dangerous eyes. He was referring to the possible attack on Wano by the Straw Hat Pirates. The history of road signs, this article, the world doesn't value. His dream once was to travel around the world with his big brother. After being betrayed by his big brother and his friends, his only thought now is revenge, to the Marine, to the world of the world government. As for the rest, it doesn't matter. He doesn't want to fight the Straw Hat Pirates who are in the limelight right now. For him, it will do no harm. Are you scared, World? Bullet smiled provocatively. The former World Destroyer, now facing a few fledgling little ghosts, are you afraid? Don't use this cheap aggressive method, Bullet. World whispered, but after thinking about it, he said again. I can help you once this time, but after that, you have to help me with all your strength, how about it? Can. Bullet thought for a while, and agreed. Now he can only focus on fighting Luffy. It is very important for him that the world can help him block the strong fighters of the Straw Hat Pirates. Roronoa Zoro. Hawkeye sat aside, as if he hadn't heard the conversation between Bullet and World at all. Self-care is caressing the big black sword knight in his hand. He has only one purpose now. That's a fight with Roronoa Zoro, a true swordsman. It's been a long time, I haven't been as excited as today. Hawkeye caressed the big black sword Yaya in his hand, his eyes were full of burning fighting intent. Ever since Shanks lost his arm, he has been waiting for this day for a long time. Chapter 102 Yanmo, Zoro's Great Improvement. Advertise here. As this Wano-kuni. That current is too dangerous. Luffy has been completely wet by the sea water, and he is using the water droplets on the Straw Hat. Among the seas in the entire New World, Wano-kuni's ocean currents are the most violent and chaotic I have ever seen. Nami still has lingering fears at this moment. Even a super talented navigator like her almost capsized in the current around Wano-kuni. Of course, this is also because it is the first time to come. If you can get acquainted with it a few times, it will be much better. This should be Julie. Ace and Marco looked at each other and said, in fact, Ace is more aware of the terrain here. When Marco came here with Whitebeard, Wano-kuni hadn't even started yet. So they have always parked at the first side port, including Luogia and the others behind, which is actually the case. Only Ace, who sneaked in during Kaido's rule of Wano-kuni, stayed in many places in Wano-kuni. I don't know if everyone in Casa Village is still here. Ace looked a little excited. The last time he came to Wano-kuni, it really wasn't that long, maybe a year or so. It's just that his idea at the time was to attack Wano-kuni with his father after returning home, but this proposal was rejected. Now, he finally returned to this country. Everyone rested for a while, and followed Ace to Jonlu village in Julie. Julie belongs to a relatively remote and poor place in Wano-kuni. The entire Wano-kuni, Kaido's control is actually not great. Because he only needs to control Ghost Island, which is equivalent to directly controlling the entire Wano-kuni, plus Wano-kuni's special terrain and the violent currents around it. Few boats make it to Wano-kuni. This is true even for Kaido, let alone the Crusader Union, which has just taken over from Wano-kuni and has not had many days. That's why, when Luffy and the others came to Wano-kuni, the Mad Union didn't find out. Fly through the predecessors. Ayu. Ace came to Casa Village and shouted loudly. Ace. A rather cute little girl with cheeks like two balls came out of the room. He shouted excitedly when he saw Ace. Although Ace did not come as soon as he said, the relationship between the two is still very good. I'm here to fulfill my promise, Ayu. Ace raised Ayu and said. I thought that Ayu would be very happy, but Ace's next sentence turned Ace's smile into confusion. No, Ace, this country has been liberated. Ayu smiled and said, it's all thanks to Lord Crocodile of the Cross Guild. They drove Kaido away, killed Orochi, and are now being nice to the people. Everyone is praising Lord Crocodile. Ayu's words made everyone present look confused, especially Luffy and the others. Master Crocodile. Usopp tilted his head. That crocodile. Zoro also raised his eyebrows. Isn't that the sand bastard Alabasta? Luffy was very impressed with Crocodile. It was really the first time he encountered such a powerful opponent when he went to sea. You are not allowed to say that, Lord Crocodile. Hearing what Luffy and the others said, Ayu couldn't help puffing up her face, and said a little angrily. In her opinion, Crocodile is just a nice guy. After defeating Kaido and Orochi, and being able to distribute food to them, it gave the people a lot of benefits visible to the naked eye. In just a few days, Wano-kuni fell into deep despair. Rejuvenated. Ayu is just a child, she doesn't know that much. A strange old man wearing a Tengu mask appeared behind Ayu, and said in a low voice. Fly through the predecessors. Apparently, this eccentric Tengu masked man was also an acquaintance of Ace's at Wano-kuni. Ace, long time no see, these people. Ah, this is my brother and partner. Ace smiled brightly. His polite attitude and hearty smile make it easy for people to like him. Come with me. Tiango Shan Fike glanced at Luffy, who was carefree and casual, and then at the others, leading them to a hidden place. What a strange uncle. Luffy held the back of his head with both hands, watching Tiango mount and fly across the road. In this uncle's heart, there is an indescribable peace, but there is also an insoluble remorse, and the two contradictory emotions are fused together. But this has nothing to do with him. The purpose of his coming to Wano-kuni is only for Wano-kuni's road sign history text, and to beat Bullet hard, nothing more. Correct. Also give Zoro a suitable arena where he won't be disturbed. Everything else, in fact, didn't matter to him very much. In this regard, Luffy is more like Luogia and Shanks. They will do many, very difficult and unimaginable stupid things for their partners. It's like they dared to fight Shichibukai Crocodile directly for the sake of Vivi. But if it's not a partner, or someone Luffy approves of, he will not do too much. He is not a messenger of justice, he is just a sea who likes to sail. Just like now, his knowledgeable color can gain insight into the deep emotions of some people. But Luffy doesn't go into too much detail. After a while, Tiango Mountain flew through the room. Ace and Marco, Sanji Jinbei and the others listened carefully to Tengu Shanfike's narration of what happened to Wano Kuni recently. And Luffy sat on the ground with a bored face, straightened his legs, supported his body with his hands, and wandered away. What is this country? What is the history and so on? It is too troublesome. This is the information you want to know. Tiango Mountain Fike said calmly. In fact, there is not much really useful information. If it's Kaido and Orochi's information, there are still a lot of Tengu Mountain Fike here. But the Crusaders, their time in Wano Kuni is too short, and their core members are only a few. The capital of flowers. Sanji pondered. The only useful information, that is, people from the Cross Union, is now in the capital of flowers. Uncle, do you know Ryoma? After Tiango Fike finished speaking, Zoro, who hadn't listened carefully, asked. Of course I know. Tiango Fike took a careful look at Zoro, and then glanced at the black sword Chushui on his waist. That is the sword god of our Wano Kuni. A sword god. Zoro was slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, Ryoma's status in Wano Kuni is so high. But think about it too. The Ryoma from the thriller barque, that zombie has rotted like that, and only Brook's shadow is stuffed into it. But the strength he displayed far surpassed Brook's. Even he spent a lot of effort to defeat it, one can imagine how powerful it was during his lifetime. If I'm not mistaken, brother, the black sword on your waist is Ryoma's saber, the black sword Chushui. Tiango Fike asked in a low voice. Ah, this is what I fought against Ryoma's corpse in the thriller barque, and he left it for me. Zoro put his hands on the autumn water at his waist, and recalled in his eyes, that is really a powerful swordsman. I see, it really is that bastard Moria. Tiango Fike nodded, as if he was thinking about something. Uncle, do you know knives too? Zoro is interested. Heidao Chushui can be seen from the handle at a glance. The uncle in front of him definitely has a thorough understanding of famous knives. Actually, I am a blacksmith, and the third generation ghost on your waist is my work. Zoro was shocked by Tiango flying words. Hey, the third generation Kizaru was forged by you, uncle. Zoro was really surprised. Although third generation Onitaru does not belong to Kuei-Dao 50 crafts, but the nature of his demon sword makes him not lose to the famous swords of Kuei-Dao 50 crafts. And the craftsman who can forge such a famous knife is definitely the top knife blacksmith in the world. I'm ashamed, my level has not yet reached the level of my ancestors. Tiango Mountain Fike opened his mouth and said. His ancestor, Goucher, was able to create the second generation Gidoru with 21 knives, but the third generation Okadoru he created was not counted as 5 knives. It's already strong. Zoro praised sincerely. Speaking of which, brother Zoro, I have something to ask you. Tiango Fike, from the first time he saw the black knife Chushui on Zoro's waist, he had been in a daze. Until just now, he seemed to have made up his mind, looked at Zoro firmly and said. You say. Zoro also respected this top blacksmith very much, and his face became serious. I want to ask for the black sword Chushui on your waist. This is our national treasure of Wano Kuni. Tiango Fike suddenly came to Zoro with a soil seat, and said in a low and serious voice. Water. Zoro looked at Tiango Mountain Fike in front of him, thought for a while, but still refused. Next, I will fight with the world's #1 swordsman. This knife is absolutely not for you, uncle. Not to mention, Heidao Chushui itself is a big fast knife 21 workers, or a black knife, its own value is very high. And it was gifted by Ryoma's last consciousness. Zoro couldn't have sent this famous sword back just because of Tiango Fike's words. Plus, he's about to fight Hawkeye, which is the most important fight in his life. Chushui's strength is what he needs, and in a short time, he will not be able to find a better knife than Chushui. As that's so, Tiango Fike got up. What if I trade 2 better knives with you? A better knife. Zoro was a little surprised, the quality of Chushui was already the best knife under the supreme quick knife. Could it be that this uncle has 2 supreme sharp knives in his hands? Ah, better knives, maybe their current quality is not as good as Chushui, but their upper limit in the future, and their strength in your hands, must be better than Chushui. Tiango Fike turned around, went to the back room, and took out 2 famous knives. One is purple all over, and the other is all white. Fike handed the 2 knives to Zoro. Zoro held the 2 knives in his hands. Before they were sheathed, he could feel that these 2 knives were definitely at the 21 level. All are rare good knives. Good knife. Zoro drew the blade from one of the blades. A cold light flashed in an instant, and murderous aura overflowed. This is not a demon sword, but it is more difficult to tame than a demon sword. Is this knife eating my Haki? Zoro held the knife, with a look of surprise in Tien's eyes. Just by holding the handle and pulling out the blade, one can feel an invisible force devouring his Haki. This is simply a magic knife. But it suits me very well. It is more suitable than Chushui. Zoro has fallen in love with this knife just by touching it. Give me peace. Zoro let out a low cry, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Armed color conquerors, wrapped around the hand in an instant. He pulled out the whole knife in one breath. The flame-patterned blade was instantly covered by the terrifying armed color aura and conqueror's room aura. At the same time, far away in the palace of the capital of flowers, Hawkeye and Bullet's eyes widened instantly. Coming. Hawkeye could feel the powerful and sharp sword energy. It was the aura among great swordsmen who were powerful to the limit. As for Bullet, purely relying on the powerful observation Haki, it sensed a strong momentum spreading. Is it finally here? On Bullet's face, there was an excited smile full of fighting spirit. Weaving Casa Village. It's unbelievable, you actually convinced Yan Mo in an instant. Tiango Mountain Fike was completely surprised. Because of Wano Kuni's lock-up, he didn't know Zoro's strength. Seeing him surrender Yan Mo all of a sudden, he had a clear understanding of Zoro's strength. He has only seen one person who was able to subdue Yan Mo in such a short time. That is his son, Kazuki Oden. Relying on the strong physique and courage that was born that day, he instantly surrendered the demon sword Yan Mo. Yan Mo. What a good name. Zoro gently waved Yan Mo in his hand, as if this knife was born for him. Yan Mo, the sword that claims to be able to destroy even hell. Tiangoshan Fike looked at Zoro with a complicated expression and said, try another knife, they are a pair. Tianyu Yuzan, the famous knife that claims to be able to cut even the sky. Zoro handed Yan Mo in his hand to Tiangoshan Fike, and then sent out another Tianyu Yuzan with a white handle on the scabbard. On the blade of this knife is a white cloud-like pattern. Although this knife does not fit Zoro as well as Yan Mo, it is more comfortable than Chushui, which is a strange feeling. Although he has used Chushui for a long time, he has always felt that Chushui's knife has an owner and does not belong to him. This is a great swordsman's very keen perception of his own weapons. Zoro told this doubt to Tiangoshan Fike. But Fike had an expected expression. Normal. Fei Che said, because Chushui is a black knife. Black knife. Do you know how the black knife is forged? Fike asked. Zoro shook his head in doubt. He only knew that the black knife was much heavier than a normal knife of the same size, and also much harder. The black knife is known as an elephant standing on the blade, and the blade will not bend. He always thought it was a material problem. The black knife cannot be made by craftsmen. Fike shook his head and said calmly, only a swordsman can forge a black sword. It is a perfect combination of spirit and famous sword. I don't know exactly how to do it. But Chushui is like this. His top is the spirit of the sword god Ryoma. Even after hundreds of years, you can't fully grasp him, and Yan Mo and Tian Yuyu have the potential to become black swords. Black knife, the combination of courage and knife. Zoro was thoughtful. The black knife created by armament Haki does not seem to be short-lived, maybe it can exist, and the possibility of permanently turning the knife in his hand into a black knife. He had a hunch that if he could turn the 3 knives in his hand into black knives, then he would have a real breakthrough in the realm of swordsmanship. What do you want to change? Use Chushui and 3rd generation Gush to exchange Yan Mo and Tian Yu Zan. Tiango Mountain Fike opened his mouth and said. Certainly. Zoro naturally had no reason to refuse. Yan Mo and Tian Yu Zan are undoubtedly the most suitable for him. Moreover, at his current strength, 3rd generation Gush, to be honest, is not enough. However, why, uncle, you want to use these 2 knives in exchange for Chushui and 3rd generation Gush? No matter how Zoro thinks, he thinks that Fike is at a disadvantage. If you want Chushui, just a handful of Yan Mo is enough, and he will not refuse. Why? Fike sighed softly. Maybe it's for atonement. Chapter 103. The battle that reached the peak instantly. Advertise here. Atonement. Zoro was a little puzzled. But Fei Che didn't continue talking. Instead, after receiving the autumn water, he sent off the guests directly. Leave, whether it's to defeat the Crusaders or just leave, it's best not to fight around here. The fluctuations in the battle of the strong are not something they can resist. Strange uncle. Luffy mumbled, but didn't say anything, just like being liberated. He couldn't wait a long time ago to defeat the Cross Union and obtain the historical text. Then, Uncle Fike, let's leave first. Ace said goodbye politely. Wait until Ace Luffy and the others leave completely. Tiangoshan Fike slowly took off the mask on his face, revealing an old face. If an elderly Wanokuni who is familiar with this face sees it, he will definitely be surprised. Because that's what General Wanokuni was before, Kazuki Sukiyaki. It's just that the general of the Kazuki family, who was known to have died of illness, is actually alive and well at the moment. Oden, Kazuki said with a little sadness on his face. He gave away both of Oden's knives. Oden originally left these 2 knives to his children, namely Kazuki Hiyori and Momosuke. But Kazuki Sukiyaki, there is no hope in sight. Hiyori doesn't have much strength, she can't control Enma, and Momonosuke, he can't be sure whether Momonosuke is still alive. If only Kaido ruled Wanokuni. Then Sukiyaki can also force himself to believe in the existence of Momonosuke and the so-called Red Sheath Samurai. Because that is their only hope under Kaido's brutal rule. But Crusader is different from Kaido. As the king, Sukiyaki can tell at a glance that Crocodile is a conspirator, and he is buying people's hearts. But he couldn't stop it. He didn't have that strength, and Crocodile's methods were very clever. In just a few days, he became Wano Kuni's hope, the hero. Up to now, even relying on his former Kazuki family general's name, he can only win over some old people and samurai, and the vast majority of Wano Kuni (CGAD) people will not recognize him as a general. This is the most desperate. For the head of the Kazuki family, the ancestral property of Wano Kuni has been completely occupied by others. And this kind of occupation, even if Momonosuke really came back with the Red Sheath Samurai, it would not be of any use, because the Kazuki family lost the popularity of the people. That's why Kazuki gave Zoro both of Oden's knives. As the selfishness of the Kazuki family, he wants the Straw Hats to defeat the Crusaders. But he is also very clear that even if the Straw Hat Boys defeat the Cross Union, the ruler of Wano Kuni will still not change in the slightest. On the other hand, it's real to die for. This is Wano Kuni's national treasure, and getting him back is the last thing Kazuki can do for this country. Black Knife. Zoro and Luffy followed Ace and headed towards the capital of Flowers. Zoro waved the 2 knives he just got in his hand, still thinking about what Tiangashan Fike said in his mind. A real black knife is not forged by a craftsman, only a real swordsman can forge his own knife by integrating his spirit into a famous knife. Hawkeye has already reached this level. Zoro thought to himself. With the free-spirited feeling when Hawkeye used the supreme sharp knife Yi, he has definitely integrated his own spirit into Yi, and forged it into a knife. When everyone walked to the open space between Wajadu and Julie. In the sky, snowflakes suddenly floated. The climate of Wano Kuni is so changeable, and the climate of each place is completely different, which is very strange. Snowflakes danced all over the sky. The temperature dropped instantly. Coming. Luffy and Sanji paused, looking towards the sky. Gray sky, only snowflakes falling. Then 2 black shadows rapidly expanded in the sky. Boy, quote. The crazy roar almost swept the entire sky, and the wind and snow all over the sky were instantly overwhelmed by the powerful spirit. Bullet's majestic figure fell from the sky like a meteorite. Next to him is World, who is also physically strong. The 2 of them carried the terrifying Conqueror's Haki on their bodies, as if the sky had fallen. Luffy's eyes froze. Pressing the straw hat that was shaken by the powerful storm with one hand, a gentle white light began to burst out from all over his body. The white light is like a dog net chasing the dark sky. In an instant, entering the state of 5th gear, after breaking through the limit, Luffy felt better than ever at the moment. This posture made him feel that he could beat everything in front of him. Bullet. Luffy yelled. The ground under his feet was shattered in an instant, and the wind and snow all over the sky were instantly pushed away. Luffy's figure disappeared instantly. The huge fist directly collided with Bullet's figure falling from the sky. In an instant, World's body, like a cannonball, hit the ground directly. P.S. There are some Calvins today, because Wano Kuni's plot is so bad, I don't know where to start writing, and many annoying characters must be as logical as possible, otherwise, Luffy and the others the persona collapsed. The battle reached its peak in an instant. World stepped on a white blast in the air. World armed with color coverage, punched out. Boom. On the other side, Zoro gently tore off the green turban on his shoulders, and tied it firmly on his head. The storm spread in an instant, and the white cyclone rolled with snowflakes, just like a giant white dragon. Momo 100 times faster. The body turned into an afterimage, heading towards Luffy. Sanji put his hands in his pockets, stepped on his feet lightly, a white air burst erupted, stood firmly in the air, looked at the ground, and said calmly. Immediately afterwards, his face changed instantly, and the terrifying and unimaginable power made him feel faintly unable to contend. And in front of him, at some point, a man with black flames all over his body appeared. How is it possible? Let you stop our captain's battle. One kick through the air, go straight to the door of World. Opposite him, Hawkeye stood with a knife. The blazing high temperature instantly burned the surroundings into a vacuum. The 2 strongest forces in this sea today are the collision resistance of monsters. Chapter 104, a swordsmanship showdown enough to be recorded in history. Advertise here. In the snowy sky, 2 might be the strongest swordsmen in this world, standing quietly with their sabers in their hands. The blizzard was getting stronger, the gray sky was a vast expanse of whiteness, and the heavy blizzard seemed to isolate them into an independent world. A world that belongs directly to them at this moment. Your growth has really exceeded my expectations, although as early as the first time I saw you, I knew that a man like you would definitely stand in front of me in the future. Hawkeye's deep voice echoed, and he looked at Zoro in front of him. It was like thinking of that immature swordsman a year ago, but even Zoro, who was so immature at that time, left an extremely deep impression on him who was already the world's #1 swordsman at that time. Do you want to be pierced straight through the heart? Why not back down? I don't know myself, but I feel that even if I just take a step back, those promises and oaths that are still important until now will all disappear, and I will never be able to stand here again. Yes, this is defeat. Then I can't go back. Even death. I'd rather die, even if it's death. Don't you want to lose? Kid, the name will be listed in the daily newspaper. Roronoa Zoro, that immature and weak swordsman, and the 3 swordsmen in front of him who still did not change his original intention, gradually overlapped in the eyes of the eagle eye. Roronoa Zoro, let me ask you, would you still rather die than lose? Hawkeye pulled out the big black sword Yaya behind his back, and pointed straight at Zoro, pushing away all the wind and snow around him with terrifying aura. I will not die, I will become the world's #1 swordsman, and I will let my name resound throughout the heavens. Zoro's expression under the turban seemed to be shining with red light, and his eyes seemed to be a beast that concentrated all its vigor and breath. Like the most ferocious beast, the concentration has been raised to an extreme. His gaze made people feel like two sharp famous knives. He holds the words of He Dao in his mouth, Yanmo in his left hand, and Tien Yu slash in his right hand. He stands between heaven and hell, and in the middle is the agreement he has made so far, the will he bears. The sword in his hand will cut to heaven, even if his feet step on hell. The eagle's sharp gaze seemed to penetrate everything between heaven and earth, his whole body was tense, and his aura grew explosively. That is the aura of the world's #1 swordsman, that is the aura of standing at the pinnacle of the kendo. Since Shanks broke his arm, he has accumulated the aura for 10 years, and now he is facing the strongest beast in the kendo, Shira. He was also thoroughly excited. Boy, report your name. Roranoa Zoro. The two clear voices came one after the other, as if returning to the East Blue Sea a year ago. However, compared with the huge gap at that time, the two of them now regard each other as their real opponents. Night slash. Hawkeye holds a knife in both hands, jumping high, the big black sword in his hand explodes with heavy knife pressure, a huge emerald green knife wave, as if trying to split the whole world. Three swords technique, Suji of 6 paths. Zoro bit the word Hidao in his mouth, holding Yanmo and Tien Yu Zan. Unleashes a slash powerful enough to slice 6 paths apart. Boom. The black sword energy collided with the green sword wave instantly. The snowstorm in the sky seemed to pause for an instant, and then was swept away. The terrifying knife wave turned into a cyclone and exploded rapidly. The two bright sword waves twisted and directly broke through the gray sky, and finally spread out like a bright ring at the highest point of the sky. Let the whole sky be bright. Hawkeye swung out the sword, and the big black sword Yi slashed fiercely on Zoro's double swords. A heavy slash. Zoro gritted his teeth hard. In this battle, he could clearly feel that Hawkeye was different from the last Summit War. He didn't hold back the slightest hand, all the strength, and the full-scale explosion of the swordsmanship that has been honed. That heavy and terrifying knife pressure. Obviously Hawkeye's physical strength doesn't look very strong, but Zoro feels that every knife of the opponent is unimaginably heavy. It's like thousands of knives gathered together and chopped out. Are you really ready to face the #1 in the world? Roranoa. Hawkeye yelled. Different from the previous state of being calm and calm like a noble gentleman, at this moment, Hawkeye is calm and full of excitement and madness, as if he has completely untied the shackles. Of course, I have been in hell all the time since 10 years ago, looking at the position of the world's #1 swordsman. 3 sword flow profound meaning, sleepless at night. The bright and sharp sword light of the 3 knives seemed to cut open the space, Zoro roared and swung the 3 famous knives vigorously. However, the sharp and frightening sword waves were easily swallowed up by Hawkeye's forceful emerald green knife, like water droplets merging into the sea. Have you made it? Have you realized your mortal consciousness? Hawkeye swung his knife, and the violent pressure of the knife actually knocked Zoro back with one blow. Certainly. Zoro's eyes were full of red light, the sword wave in his hand became more and more bright, and the terrifying aura condensed on his body. He was adapting to the terrifying power of Yanmo and Tien Yu Zan. Getting stronger and brighter, he is sublimating, the sublimation of a swordsman. However, no matter how sublime Zoro is, no matter how powerful he strikes that can cut down the sky and extinguish the karmic fire of hell, under the pressure of Hawkeye's sword like an unfathomable mountain peak, he is completely nirvana. There are no gorgeous skills, no fancy move names, some only have a slash that has been honed over time, and that slash is like an incomparably huge rolling mountain range that is pressed down from the sky. It's impossible to shake at all. Is it just the awareness of life and death? So, are you ready for the awareness of failure in your dreams? Hawkeye's words froze Zoro's sword for a moment. There are still flaws in your heart, Roranoa. Hawkeye shouted loudly, and the heavy sword wave that could distort the space directly rode Zoro 100 meters away. Zoro crossed his swords in front of him, his feet sank deeply into the snow, and he barely managed to split the wave of sword after retreating 100 meters. His pupils shrunk to pinpoints at this moment. Does he have holes in his heart? He always thought that his heart was completely complete, and he was buried towards the #1 position in the world. However, in the most top-level battles, only in front of the strongest opponent, the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, can the flaws in his heart be pierced. Hawkeye didn't give Zoro the slightest chance to breathe. When Zoro retreated 100 meters away, the eagle-eyed figure broke through the snowstorm and came to Zoro in an instant. Boom. A heavy knife cut down. Zoro held it up with 3 swords, and the snowflakes under his feet were all shaken away in an instant, revealing the solid ground below. And no matter how solid the ground was, it was turned into dust in an instant. The slash of the world's #1 swordsman is so violent. The so-called awareness of death is just a way out for one's own heart. Is death the end? Hawkeye slashed down with a knife. The terrifying momentum of the knife, the pressure of the knife was almost violent to the extreme. This is the spirit of the world's #1 swordsman, the violent and terrifying spirit. Have you realized your dream beyond life and death? Have you made up your mind to break your arms, bite your teeth, and practice knives? It's done. Even if you lose everything, do you have the consciousness to become the world's #1 swordsman? Hawkeye's words became louder and louder, and his knife became heavier and heavier each time. Every sentence hit Zoro's heart directly, and Zoro, who was slashed with every knife, trembled all over, trying to parry with all his strength. Awakening or something. A dream or something. I've been rambling on and on about something since just now. Hawkeye, standing in hell, piercing through heaven with a sword, this is my way of Shura. Boom. On Zoro's body, red blood light instantly enveloped the whole body, and the eyes of the 3 knives were terrified. From the handle to the blade, everything turned black. Moreover, this is not simply the black power transformed into the armed color winding. Under Hawkeye's persecution and oppression, there was a natural thing that merged into his knife. 9 mountains and 8 seas form one world, and thousands of worlds gather to form a small 1,000 worlds. This world becomes 3, and there is no one who cannot be cut. When the red light erupted from Zoro's body, Hawkeye felt the dangerous aura from Zoro's body. But now with the chanting, that dangerous breath became stronger and stronger. Although at this moment, he was still being slashed back by him, but at this moment, Hawkeye had the feeling of being pierced by an extremely sharp blade. 3 swords technique. 1 big 3,000. Big 1,000 worlds. In an instant, a sword light that seemed to be able to break through a world bloomed in front of his eyes. The speed of swinging the knife was so fast that people couldn't see clearly at all, and the glow of the knife produced by swinging the knife too fast was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes and look directly at it. Boom. The silver-white sword light flashed past, like a spreading crescent moon. In an instant, it has penetrated through an unknown number of horizons. The flying snow all over the sky is like a vacuum that has been opened. The snowflakes fell in the sky, and after reaching a certain height, they disappeared out of thin air. The whole world seems to be divided into 2 parts. It was the berserk knife energy, staying in the air, devouring the snowflakes falling from the sky. What a terrible slash. Vista, who was watching the battle from a distance, couldn't help swallowing, his eyes full of fanaticism. For a great swordsman, it was a beautiful and stunning strike that made it hard to take your eyes off it. Is this the strength of Roronoa Zoro? Marco's knowledge of Zoro was only that he blocked Hawkeye during the Summit War, but now that he saw this slash, he realized just how terrifying that kind of strength was. Roronoa, I appreciate you more and more. Hawkeye's body appeared 100 meters away, and there were 2 long ravines on the ground. The incomparably astonishing blow just now split him open 100 meters away. Since Shanks broke his arm 10 years ago, there has never been a swordsman who can bring me this level of oppression and danger. ... Ask for flowers. Hawkeye's eyes are sharp, and his eyes are full of excitement. Looking at Zoro, it was like the excitement of seeing a seed that I once planted unintentionally, and now it has become a towering tree. Finally appeared. A swordsman who can let him completely let go and fight. As the world's #1 swordsman and the strongest swordsman, he can already see that Roronoa on the opposite side has filled the last hole in his heart. He was truly transformed at this moment. The black knife in his hand is a testimony. Let's have a fight between the strongest swordsmen. An excited smile appeared on Hawkeye's perennially indifferent face. Dahe Toya held his hands tightly, with the tip of the knife pointing down, and Hawkeye's body disappeared instantly, as if dragging a knife and passing by quickly. So, you talk too much, Hawkeye. Zoro let out a loud roar, and the terrifying red rays of light all over his body expanded and extended, his eyes had completely turned red, like a ghost from hell. Ghost Chi, 9 swords style. Ashura true sword. The surrounding ground instantly shattered like a spider's web. Zoro's vigor has undergone another terrifying improvement. 3 heads and 6 arms, red light, and 9 famous knives slashed at the eagle eye with cumbersome and gorgeous traces. The collision of the simplest 1 sword style and the most cumbersome 9 sword style. The collision of the thickest black and the brightest red. In the whole world, 2 swordsmen who also stood at the extreme broke out the collision of the most wonderful swordsman in this world, and even in the entire history. That taciturn guy, I didn't expect to be so passionate, but it's as scary as ever. Crocodile looked at Hawkeye and snorted coldly. He has already won this battle, that man who is as sharp as an eagle, with this attitude, even the 4 emperors cannot defeat him. He, quote, 0. Ha, Zoro will never lose. Chopper, who was not far away, heard Crocodile's evaluation, and said unconvinced, Zoro, he is a swordsman who wants to surpass the world's #1 swordsman. He will not lose to any swordsman. Who are you? You're just a mere pet. How dare you talk to me like that? Crocodile held a cigar in his mouth, looked down at Chopper, who was as petite as a civet cat, and said with disdain. He remembered the deer. It's just a pet of the Straw Hat Pirates, even if it has acquired a powerful force, defeating an old and disabled ex-admiral is nothing more than arrogance. However, the next moment, Chopper's petite body like a civet cat swelled rapidly, and the shadow instantly enveloped the entire crocodile. I'm not a pet, I'm a ship's doctor. In the human state, Chopper's majestic monster-like body had already arrived in front of Crocodile in an instant. That terrifying punch hit Crocodile straight. Pet, don't be too arrogant. Crocodile directly raised the golden hook, covering it with a powerful spirit, and smashed it directly towards Chopper's fist. Boom. The sky is filled with sand. Chopper gritted his teeth, the armament Haki and Conqueror's twines on his fists were terrifyingly strong. What is this? Crocodile condensed in the dust all over the sky, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It's just that it's too late for him to wipe it off at this moment, and he looks at Tianba with extremely serious eyes. What is it about this monster's enormous majesty and strength? How could it be possible to completely suppress him? Crocodile thinks he knows people like Luffy quite well, after all they are old friends. Even in Summit War, their strength has evolved a bit outrageously. But Crocodile still set himself against Luffy and the others, even if they defeated the 4 emperors. He is such a character, and he was able to challenge Whitebeard without fear. Facing a mere pet, even if he defeated the former admiral, he would not pay attention to it. But now, Chopper stunned Crocodile with one blow, and he couldn't compete with the pet of the Straw Hat Pirates. Crocodile. Chopper threw 3 Rambo balls straight into his mouth. Rambo ball, human form, monster enhancement. In an instant, Chopper's already majestic body swelled up again, with knotted muscles, full of pure power. The Chopper who fought with Zephyr in Summit War has not evolved to the limit, but now his initial evolution has been fully completed, and his physical fitness has undergone a qualitative change. Plus so many days, Rambo ball adjustments for the evolved body. Let him develop a brand new form, which is the state of facing Zephyr on the top, which fully strengthens the speed and power of the human form. After mastering this form more perfectly, his strength had an incomparably terrifying and steady improvement. Even in the face of Crocodile, who has regained his courage after awakening, this big pirate with a bounty of 1.9 billion, he can suppress it. Marine still underestimated the bounty offered by the Straw Hats. Because during the Summit War period, whether it was Zoro Sanji or Chopper Usopp, they were not in the strongest state. Chapter 105 The Stupidest Idiot, Yamato. Advertise here. Real strength is not simply an increase in physical fitness skills. It's a real fusion. Just like Zoro, he was very strong when he just evolved. After he mastered it thoroughly, his sword skills will become more and more easy to handle, and the combination with Conqueror's Haki will become even more powerful. There is also the current Chopper. Dig out the power of the fruit of everyone at a deeper level, and use the blue wave ball to enter a stronger form. The Desert Knife. In the face of failure, Crocodile is not simply a person who uses iron. He quickly summoned 2 huge sand blades out of thin air on the snow, pushing Chopper into the air. Then waved to create a sandstorm. Sand fruit is also the top Logia fruit. If Crocodile hadn't been too slack after failing to challenge Whitebeard, his strength would definitely be much stronger than it is now. His fundamentals are very strong. The gravel is suspended in the air, forming wind and sand, blocking all sight around Chopper. Chopper. Nami yelled worriedly. Even though it has evolved, the sense of oppression that Crocodile brings to Nami is still too strong. Don't worry, Nami, I can handle it. Usopp smiled reassuringly. In fact, Chopper's strength is very strong. Among the Straw Hat Pirates that have evolved with all members, they can be ranked 5th. In front are monsters like Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei. Chopper's evolutionary improvement is a qualitative change. His everyone fruit was too weak before, and could only be strengthened with the Rumble Ball. After evolution, Haki, the breakthrough in physical fitness, made Chopper's positioning clearer. From an awkward ability user, he evolved into an ability-assisted physique powerhouse. This is also the direction that almost all zone ability users go. And because it is the fruit of everyone, Yinba fits very well in physical skills. This is also the reason why Chopper's strength is so strong now. 523, Crocodile. Chopper's monster-like body roared in the wind and sand. Crocodile looked at Chopper in the sandstorm with a headache on his face. The opponent's Haki attainment and strength are very strong. If he wants to attack through pure grit, he can't break the opponent's armament Haki at all, and if it is a melee attack, it will be directly sensed by the opponent's observation Haki, and he will be hit hard with a stronger shot speed. If it weren't for Chopper's observation Haki not being very strong and the range of perception not very wide, I'm afraid he would be chasing Crocodile now. Now, it is equivalent to a stalemate between the two, and no one can do anything to the other. The brats of the Straw Hat Pirates, we meet again, hee hee. Tiny laughter came from behind Luffy and all of them. Little devils. Perona Ghost State, floating behind Moria. And behind them, Absalom comes back from being transparent. It's you. Usopp looked back helplessly. Gecko Moria, Perona, and Absalom, these existences that almost wiped them out, don't look very strong now. And, are you sure you want to be our enemy now? Usopp spoke up. By his side, Jinbei, Marco, Fire Fist Ace, Beasta, Josie. A group of masters just watched Moria quietly. They originally fought this battle according to the scale of the war, but they didn't expect that the cross-union came with the idea of single-handedly. So now it has led to them, with their powerful combat power, they can only stand by and watch the show at this moment. If Moria was really that brave to come up to fight, they would be more than happy to accompany her. No, I'm not here to start a war. The cross-union is just a loose alliance, and we are not enemies. Seeing the famous big pirates in front of her and their oppressive eyes, Moria resolutely confessed. These people pulled out individually, although they are not as good as these monsters who are fighting, but compared with him, almost every one of them is stronger than him. His brain is broken, so he thinks about fighting these people. Boring. Marco turned his head away and continued to watch the battle of the monsters. However, at this moment, a white ray of light in the distance is rushing over rapidly. Thunder 8 trigrams. Terrifying thunder, mixed with white cold light, smashed towards Marco and the others. Phoenix seal. Marco instantly turned into a huge phoenix, and kicked towards the laser light that came from him. However, at the moment of collision and contact, Marco's face was one. Conqueror's winding. The invisible blow from the air, with the terrifying impact of the Conqueror's winding, directly sent the huge phoenix flying. Then the black mace swung towards everyone without any sign of diminishing momentum. Ace saw the person coming, his eyes widened suddenly, and he wanted to stop him. But faster than his voice was a majestic figure. It was Jinbei, and he appeared in front of everyone in an instant. He put on a good posture, and Zhongjung delivered a punch that has been tempered steadily. Murloc karate, 30,000 Wajang fists. Boom. The heavy invisible collisions twisted together, and a bright thunder burst out. This everyone can see, who is the person who came here to launch an attack from a distance in an instant. This turned out to be a woman with a slightly larger figure and an extremely beautiful appearance. She has white hair with gradient color, wears a sleeveless kimono, and has amazingly beautiful facial features. What is even more surprising is that she has a pair of devil horns on top of her head. But compared to her beauty, what is more surprising is her strength. The terrifying power speed, the Conqueror's entanglement, was able to knock Marco into the air. There is no doubt that this is a very strong powerhouse. It is really shocking that the Cross Guild actually has such a strong person. Yamato, why did you attack us? The collision between Yamato and Jinbei was evenly divided. When the two sides retreated, Ace hurriedly said. He was in Wano-kuni last time. He and Yamato did not know each other and became good friends. Naturally, he was puzzled by Yamato's actions. I came here for the Straw Hat Pirates. The Crusaders defeated Kaido, brought a better life to the people of Wano-kuni, and helped the country to be founded. I can't just watch you destroy this hard-won peace. Yamato said loudly. Get rid of Kaido and make this country a nation. This is the most important will of Kazuki Oden, and the idiot Yamato, who was brainwashed by Oden's diary, is also carrying these wills on his body at this moment. We're not here to break the peace in Wano-kuni. Ace said hastily. Just for the rubbing of Wano-kuni's road sign history text. Then let the Straw Hat Pirates stop attacking the Cross Guild. Yamato said loudly. If you don't win the Cross Union, there will be no signpost history. I don't care. Dealing with the Cross is to destroy the hope of Wano-kuni. I, as the guardian of Wano-kuni, Kazuki Oden, have the responsibility to drive out the factors that are not good for Wano-kuni. Yamato clenched the mace in his hand and said loudly. I'm so tired, you still hold on to that diary. Ace is a little tired, he is really speechless. What kind of idiot is he, who wants to become another person in a daze all the time? Stay back, this person is very dangerous, fight later, don't be affected. Jinbei made a Murloc karate gesture, and looked at Yamato in front of him cautiously. The collision just now let him know that even if this woman is slightly weaker than him, she can't be too weak. It is the existence of the same level as him. After finishing speaking, Jinbei took a step forward and punched out directly. The terrifying fluctuation enveloped Yamato in an instant. Jinbei's strength is obviously stronger than Yamato's. Whether it's taijutsu or Conqueror's Haki, Yamato is faintly suppressed. Do you know that weirdo? Ace. Frankie asked curiously. Ah, Yamato is Kaido's daughter. When I came to Wano-kuni 2 years ago, I had a fight with her and became friends. Kaido's daughter. Everyone was amazed, the biological daughter of the 4 emperors. Wait, why did Kaido's daughter get mixed up with people from the Cross Union? Shouldn't she have generously defeated her father's one-word union? Usopp discovered the problem and asked in doubt. The reasons for this are complex anyway. Ace thought for a while, and ran through the logic in his mind before speaking. From Kaido's execution of Kazuki Oden, to Yamato picking up Oden's diary, and then the bad relationship with her father Kaido. It really is a fool. Usopp crossed his arms across his chest and said, tilting. The degree of hopelessness of a fool. Frankie touched his chin, a little speechless. So stupid. Nami couldn't help commenting. There will be people who let themselves not do it and become a dead person. Even if he admired his will, it shouldn't be like this. He lost himself and completely imitated other people. Follow Yamato for this behavior. Then everyone who goes to see May have to change their name to Galdi Luogia. It shouldn't be like this to inherit the will. Although you should not comment on other people's choices in life. But anyway, Usopp and the others couldn't understand Yamato's behavior. I don't understand either. Ace spread his hands. His affection for his father was undeniably deep. But it never occurred to him to change his name to Edward Newgate. Not only is this behavior stupid, but it feels like a great disrespect to the deceased. What a pity, Robin said. However, although there is a problem in his mind, it has to be said that Yamato's strength is still very terrifying. I am angry. With a loud roar, the cold breath spread. A woman with disheveled hair, long fangs, and a cold air floating around like a flame appeared in front of everyone. What is this? Nami asked in surprise. This form is full of a wild oppressive force. Zone, dog fruit, phantom beast species, Dako true god form. Ace said. The rare devil fruit named after a god is extremely powerful. Sure enough, after entering this state, Yamato, who had been firmly suppressed before, was able to fight Jinbei on equal footing. Sure enough, the previous feeling is not wrong. Jinbei collided with Yamato, who had entered the form of Dako Junction, a phantom beast, and thought in his heart. The opponent's strength has indeed reached this level, enough to. Although the realm to compete against Admiral is slightly weaker than Admiral, it is still at the same level. The strength is also monster level. The battle won't be resolved in a short time, but it doesn't matter. As long as Mr. Zoro and Brother Luffy can win this battle, that's enough. Jinbei glanced at Luffy and Bullet from the corner of his eye. The purpose of this time, in addition to the signpost history text, it is to ensure the smooth progress of the battle between Zoro and Luffy. The other side, Crocodile, who trapped Chopper with a sandstorm, also saw Yamato fight. At this moment, I couldn't help but feel a little proud. Sure enough, it's a useful force. Before the Crusaders defeated Kaido, they found Yamato in prison. This Kaido's daughter hates Kaido so much that she sees herself as Kazuki Oden's fool. Facing such a powerful fool, Crocodile just tricked Yamato into a knife in his hand with just a little trickery. Looking at it now, the ease of use of this knife is beyond his imagination. Boom. Just when everyone was paying attention to the battle between Jinbei and Yamato, there was a huge shock. Within a kilometer, the entire land was torn apart, large pieces of earth and rocks were completely smashed, and terrifying shock waves swept like a storm. What's wrong? Is there an earthquake? Everyone was shocked, but waited for the shock wave to push away the heavy wind and snow. Everyone saw the shocking scene. Two extremely tall giants were fighting. One is a steel giant, a full 20 or 30 meters high, with a terrifying and hard steel body. The other is Luffy, which is enlarged in 5th gear, and it is also 20 to 30 meters long. The most frightening thing is that, under such a huge size, the two sides can still guarantee the whole body's armed color winding, and the defense and destructive power are stretched to the limit. Bullet. Under Luffy's huge size, his fist retracted, the color of his weapon solidified its elasticity, and he punched out in one breath. The terrifying impact force, the wind pressure is like a small storm. However, facing Bullet's thick steel body, he couldn't shake it at all. Boom. The huge steel giant reached out and firmly caught Luffy's fist. The sound of the heavy collision made people frown. A ring-like air explosion was generated around it, and the terrifying power was simply unimaginable. Straw Hat Boy, is this your power? Inside the Iron Giant, Bullet shone with purple light, blending into the surrounding steel, he grinned. His combined fruit can bring incomparable power, and when combined with his strongest armament Haki, it is enough to erupt an absolutely terrifying suppressive force. Too light. Bullet covered armament Haki's punch, a heavy 2.7 on Luffy's body. Directly punch the huge Luffy hundreds of meters away. The impact brought by such heavy steel is no joke. This kind of terrifying power is not something humans can produce at all, enough to shatter an island in an instant. So hard, that guy. Luffy stood up clutching his chest. What he admired was not the strength of the combined Iron Giant, but Bullet's endless armament Haki, and it was also an armament Haki of extremely high strength. With such a huge body size, it can still maintain the whole body's armed color coverage, and the armed color coverage of every part of the body is extremely powerful. This is simply unimaginable for Luffy. Is it only to this extent? Bullet laughed maniacally. The huge steel body exploded with astonishing speed and dexterity, and hit Luffy. The combination of speed, strength, size, armament Haki, and sheer violence make up Bullet's almost unsolvable strength. Stand up for me, Straw Hat. The huge steel giant rode directly on Luffy's body, with a heavy fist of terrifying force, and when it fell down, the entire main island of Wano shook, as if receiving. There are continuous earthquakes. Make me happier, Straw Hat. Bullet yelled frantically. It's noisy. Rubber rubber, giant balloon. Luffy roared angrily, and his already huge body swelled rapidly. Like a giant balloon, the strong elasticity made the heavy steel giant fly away directly. It's been noisy since just now, you steel bastard. Luffy roared, stretched his hands back quickly, and then retracted rapidly under the strong elastic force, shoot violently. The violent friction caused his fists to be instantly covered with flames. Rubber rubber, industrial fire bazooka. Chapter 106 Kizaru, Wangmu, Marine intervenes. Advertise here. Armament Haki's entwined arms rubbed against the air at high speed, producing intense high-temperature flames. Under the Conqueror's entwined twist, the flames are like two black fire pillars, like the karmic fire of hell. It hit Bullet's fit steel giant hard. That high-temperature flame directly enveloped the entire steel giant. Boom. The huge steel giant, like a burning black fireball, flew directly hundreds of meters away and smashed onto a hill. If the battle between Zoro and Hawkeye is an elegant and violent fight by Jontian, then Luffy and Bullet, that is pure violence, the collision of pure destructive power, as if the whole world can be smashed, it is a jaw-dropping horror battle. Pure violence, like a destructive force like a natural disaster, has left the entire land riddled with holes. This is really strong. The steel giant pulled his body out of the hill. Bullet from the Iron Giant grinned. On the Iron Giant's body, where Luffy hit it head-on, there was already a huge dent, and the high temperature slightly melted the hard steel bot. Even the covering with the armed color was directly broken by the blow just now. Is this the fist that beat the four emperors? The fighting spirit in Bullet's eyes became more intense, and he could feel the excitement of burning blood brought about by this level of war. He was born on the battlefield, survived the war, had no friends, no family members, no companions, and no memories worth remembering. Only in the war can he find the meaning of his existence in this world. Just like the country of endless wars he was born in. Endless war is the normal state of life for the people there, the war will not end, and the fighting will not stop. The pursuit of becoming stronger is an eternal phenomenon that has remained unchanged since ancient times. More let me feel the pain of this battle. Bullet is close to madness. On his body, purple light flickered, like a layer of fluid covering everything on the Iron Giant's body. The depression that had just been knocked out instantly recovered, and the broken armament Haki was also completely covered. This is my combined fruit. As long as you don't completely destroy my steel body, then I will be invincible. Bullet exclaimed excitedly. The essence of the combined fruit is a combination arrangement, including steel, or all other inorganic substances. As long as they are inorganic objects that have been touched by hands, they can all be rearranged and fit together under their own ideas. Dented steel. It doesn't matter. Unless it is melted into molten iron, any external damage will have no effect on Bullet. After awakening, even if he doesn't touch it with his hands, he will be able to devour the arrangement, as long as his purple light can cover. In this case, even scrap iron can be restored instantly like the best memory metal in Bullet. What is that? It's too bad, that fruit ability. Usopp couldn't help shouting. Bullet's combat power, now it seems, is even more terrifying than the Admiral of the Summit War back then. This is really a monster-level existence. Even the original BIGMOM, in terms of feeling, was not as oppressive as Bullet. No, it's not that the fruit is too powerful, but the person who controls the fruit, Bullet, he is worthy of being the successor of the ghost, and he can grow to such a degree. Marco said solemnly. He can see it. What is really powerful is not the steel giant created by the fusion fruit, but Bullet's terrifying and endless armament Haki. That armament Haki is the key to Bullet's true strength. Things like Haki are limited in quantity. Even the four emperors are the same. For a strong man like the Straw Hat Kid, he still has one of his armament Haki. If it is used up, it will take time to recover. Even the top powerhouses cannot use Haki wantonly. Haki, to put it bluntly, both armed color and conquerors are linked to physique. Just like my father at the time, Summit War, his body has deteriorated, and using Haki can no longer be as easy as when he was young. Conquerors needs Luffy and Rayleigh to clean up the miscellaneous soldiers. But Bullet is different. Marco does not know how strong his body is, and his armament Haki is so terrifying that it is unimaginable. This amount alone is already difficult to estimate. With such a large size, he actually kept the whole body covered in armed colors, and the strength of every covering was actually very high, which was very scary. If Luffy spends armament Haki like Bullet does, he will run out of Haki soon. Moreover, Bullet's armament Haki is also stronger than Luffy in strength, if it is not that Conqueror's Haki is not as good as Luffy, and the flexibility of the fruit ability is not as high as Luffy. Now the Bullet can be played by pressing Luffy. Bullet, this man, has undoubtedly stood at the top of the sea. The existence of the four emperors level. Even stronger, he does have the strength to compete for the strongest in the world. That's tough, you bastard. Luffy watched Bullet recover instantly, and couldn't help but feel a headache at the moment. In terms of destructive power, the current Bullet may not be as good as the original BIGMOM, but in terms of overall strength, he is definitely above BIGMOM. Faster speed, less power, stronger armament Haki, and tougher fruit ability. A true hexagonal fighter without any shortcomings. Straw Hat Boy, let me see more possibilities, and put more pressure on me. Bullet punched Luffy, and the shock wave generated by the terrifying collision caused the entire ground to sink directly into it. During this process, the huge robot he manipulated was actually still evolving. In the purple light, his body was constantly shrinking, his bulky body was getting closer to the human body, and his movements became more and more flexible. This is a terrible evolution, which makes Bullet's difficulty level skyrocket. Luffy can now feel how difficult it is for a fighting genius like himself to deal with. He is already so strong, but he can still transform quickly in the middle of the battle. Here's something interesting for you, Straw Hat. Bullet laughed maniacally. His huge robot, which is already very close to human form, has a purple light spreading from its body. The whole body shrunk a bit, but behind him, two metal arms stretched out again. Medium-sized Bullet, four-handed devil form. Quote. The powerful armament Haki is attached to all four arms, and what is difficult is that the purple light has been covering the robot's body. Allows him to manipulate the deformation of his body as he pleases. For example, extend the arm in an instant to make the attack range larger, or dent the attacked place in an instant to reduce the impact. But soon, Bullet gave up the latter defense. Because he found that Luffy's observation Haki was far above him, he used the observation Haki to achieve the effect. Instead, it is pure violent suppression, which is simpler and more effective. Luffy, he was actually suppressed. Sanji was a little surprised. Even in the face of the four emperors, Luffy, who was able to do a job with ease, was actually suppressed by Bullet head-on at this moment, which is really unimaginable. It's no surprise. Douglas Bullet, the famous genius kid on the Luogia ship, the most talented monster of that era, it's normal for him to be able to grow to this level. World had a mouth with only a few teeth left, and said calmly. That guy's talent, becoming the strongest existence in this world, I'm not surprised at all. It's better to say that the brat wearing the Luogia straw hat can reach this level, it's really surprising. After all, that's our captain. How can a man who wants to become the One Piece stop here? Sanji said confidently. Luffy, he won't lose. Perhaps, now is the era of so-called newcomers, the era of great pirates started by Luogia, although boring, but also a group of monsters have emerged. World's expression is calm, looking at Sanji, without the slightest fluctuation, his whole person is like a block of ice most of the time, except revenge, very few things can arouse his emotions. He was not motivated by Bullet to attack the Straw Hat Pirates. It's just because Bullet owes him a favor, and he wants to use this favor to give the world government a big one. After finding out that Sanji's strength is not weaker than him, he didn't act forcefully. He is old after all. 78 years old, in the whole world, except for the giants, they are considered relatively old. At this age, he was able to maintain such fighting power, and it was the heart of revenge that supported him. He also doesn't have much energy to fight to the death with these young people who are at their peak. As long as Sanji doesn't shoot Bullet, he's happy to watch. You're a monster too. Sanji looked at the world and thought to himself. This old man is already very old. According to Sanji's judgment, he may be around 80 years old. It's hard to imagine that at such an advanced age, his combat effectiveness is still so terrifying. Especially that weird fruit ability. It is relying on that weird fruit ability. World was able to be so powerful when his physical function declined and Haki declined. Even his observation Haki, who can predict the future, can hardly react to the instant burst of speed under the acceleration of Momo fruit. It's hard to imagine how enhanced World was when I was younger. However, if Sanji understands how World was treated when he was arrested when he was young, he should be able to understand a little bit how powerful this elderly man is. World Destroyer burned the world, in order to arrest this legendary pirate. The world government even asked Marine and the pirates to join forces against him. Each army dispatched Sengoku and Garp together, coupled with CP's backstab, and then arrested World. He was still not at ease on the 6th floor of Imper, and even tried to freeze him permanently with ice. What Sanji is facing now is an aging world that has been frozen for 30 years. The ability of Momo fruit is indeed the most perverted paramesha fruit. On Luffy's side, when there was a fierce battle, on a hill far away, there is a man in a white suit, cloak, and mask, who is observing the battle here. Sea of straw hats. The thieves and the crusaders have already joined hands. Quote. The CPO member held a small phone bug and said. This kind of phone bug, even in a place with extremely bad magnetic field like Wano, can clearly transmit information to the first half of the Grand Line. Members of the CP organization are lurking all over the world, and even the sinister Wano has been infiltrated by them with a tentacle. Especially because of the war between the Crusaders and the Straw Hat Pirates. The 5 elders above were all shocked, and the CPO and Marine were dispatched to join forces. I see. Naval Headquarters, Marineford, Sengoku hung up on the bug. Then he pinched his eyebrows and thought for a moment, then took out another phone bug. I am Sengoku. The war for Wano has begun. You are the front line, ready to act at any time, but remember, don't meddle lightly, unless it is when they both lose. When hurt. Quote. If it doesn't work, retreat immediately. This operation, Pelusalino, is under your command. Sengoku said in a low voice. I see, Mr. Sengoku. The phone bug tilted his mouth, and responded with a lewd tone. Hopefully there will be a good result. After hanging up the phone, Sengoku paced around the office worriedly. It's a gamble. If they win the bet, maybe their Marines can arrest all the Cross Guild and the Straw Hat Pirates, or arrest a few important figures, weakening their strength. If you lose the bet, use the strength of the Straw Hat Pirates and the Cross Guild after 223 battles. Retreating is still easy. It's a pity that the battle between Sakazuki and Kuzan is not over yet, otherwise they would have 2 more top players, and they would have to keep people to defend the Golden Lion side. The danger level over there is currently the highest on the ocean in the judgments of the Marine and World Government. Sengoku, you're thinking too much. Garp ate the senbei, looked at the worried Sengoku, and couldn't help complaining. You're spinning, you're going to make me dizzy. Asshole Garp, it's not your good grandson's work. Sengoku looked at the leisurely Garp, and couldn't help roaring. And, why am I so busy, but you can be so leisurely eating senbei and drinking tea in front of me? Because I'm retired. Garp took it for granted. In addition to bringing recruits, he can even choose not to bring recruits. With his status, he will eat and die in the Marine, what will others say? Damn it, I've retired too. If it wasn't for Sakazuki and Kuzan, the winner hasn't been decided yet. Sengoku looked helpless. If the 5 elders above did not elect Sakazuki, now Kuzan is the Marshal, and he can retire comfortably and live the same life as Garp every day. Asshole. Quote. Sengoku cursed in a low voice, then looked at Garp, took all the senbei from his hand, poured them all into his mouth and started to chew. My senbei, bastard Sengoku, what have you done? New World, outside the waters around Wano, several warships are docked. Of course, he chose to join Marine not because he simply admired Akainu. When the two Marine high-level executives were pinching each other. His idol is Akainu, he likes that kind of tough and thorough style. Kizaru scratched his head helplessly, showing some resistance. This is the warship that Naval Headquarters has arranged here for a long time. Garp's mentality exploded directly. It's you Marines who are not as tough as Boss Sakazuki, which makes the pirates more and more rampant. Huang Mu accused with a look of disdain. I said Pelusalino, are you really Admiral? It's too weak. Pirates should be trampled on. Aramu looked at Kizaru in surprise and said, just like we step on other creatures to survive in this sea, if we want to live better, we should step on those dregs that are weaker than us. Have you decided to act yet? He has dealt with the Crusaders Union and the Straw Hat Highs group, and none of them are simple, they are all monster level. It's enough for him to abuse the dishes usually, and he really doesn't want to play this kind of high-end game. But because of his life philosophy, the law of the jungle preys on the strong, and the idea that the strong should oppress the weak. Huang Mu asked with a rebellious face. Ah, it's really troublesome, the old man really doesn't want to dip into this muddy water. Sengoku immediately deployed this plan after receiving the news that the Straw Hat Boys were about to start a war with the Crusaders. Chapter 107 The Duel of the World's Strongest Swordsman, the outcome. Advertise here. To put it bluntly, human beings have survived by stepping on things lower than themselves. Aristocrats are ordinary people, and ordinary people deserve to be trampled underfoot by nobles. The world government is higher than the member countries, and the existence of non-member countries means that they are not worthy of human rights. The strong should step on the weak, and the weak should be willing to be squeezed. This is the nature of the world. The high ones should be lifted up high, and the low ones should be trampled down. Only in this way can order be formed, and people can live with peace of mind under order. Discrimination equals peace of mind. This is the real idea of the green cow, that is, Huang Mu. The admiral power given to him by the world conscription is also his pursuit of higher goals, which is why he chose to join the Marine. He is also one of the very few, among the Marines, who sincerely maintains the existence of the world government and celestial dragons. So he has always looked down on Admiral, who is fishing like Kizaru, and the milder doves, like Sengoku and Kuzan. Oh, in that case, let's go to Wano next. How about you, Admiral Aramaki, taking the lead? Kizaru still had the old wretched look on his face. He tilted his head slightly, tilted his mouth, looked at Huang Mu with slanted eyes and said, well, although I hate troublesome things, I still enjoy things like trampling pirates to death. Aramaki was very conceited. Speaking of which, he was originally an unknown top powerhouse, and he had not fought against many people of the same level when he reached his current level of strength. He does have ego capital. His strength is already at the top of the sea. Facing the strong pirate, to be honest, he didn't have a clear understanding, he just had to believe in his own strength. Seeing this, Kizaru didn't say anything more. When Huang Mu really faced the group of monsters, he would naturally understand something. Admiral-level monsters exist, and they can't die anyway. I will trouble you next time, Mr. Yishao. Kizaru spoke to the blind Fujitora beside him. If it is said that Arama's unruly conceit makes people hate, then Fujitora has won everyone's respect in just a few days with his calm character and modest personality. Fujitora, as long as he gets in touch with him for a period of time, even the most rebellious person will not feel disgusted by him. Even the most rebellious Aramu showed great respect in front of Fujitora. This is the aura of benevolence and righteousness that comes with this man who is as thick as the earth. Not to mention trouble, since first joined Marine, it is my duty to hunt down pirates. Fujitora slightly opened his blind eyes, revealing the whiteness inside, and smiled gently. Then he gently pulled out his stick knife, and quickly swung a few times in the air. Purple rings appeared out of nowhere under the warship. Fujitora retracted the sword, holding the sheath and handle of the sword with both hands. The huge warship just floated up like this. One warship is enough. Gion, Cake, the two of you come up, and the others wait here. Kizaru ordered quickly. From the other two warships, Momosuke, holding the famous sword Jin Kunluo, stepped on the moonwalk lightly and came directly to the floating warship. On the other side, the T-Dolphin also came up with a cigarette in his mouth. From here, it is enough to see that Marine attaches great importance to this operation. Kizaru, Fujitora, Green Bull, 3 admirals, plus Momosuke and Chappie 2 alternate admirals, this is already a very powerful force. Except for the Summit War, this is the time when Marine will deploy the strongest troops in a single operation. No matter how many times I watch it, Mr. Yishao's ability doesn't feel extremely powerful. Looking at the floating warship, Kizaru couldn't help admiring. Gravity fruit, this kind of fruit is definitely a strategic level fruit. Although his sparkling fruit is not inferior to Fujitora in battle, even stronger, but it is far behind in terms of functionality. Apart from the legendary pirate Golden Lion who can fly ships in the sky, Kizaru has also seen Fujitora. In terms of the highest quality of floating and the fineness of manipulation, Fujitora is definitely not as good as Golden Lion. But both sides have their own strengths, and they are both very powerful fruit abilities. Sengoku wouldn't have dared to make such a plan without Fujitori's gravity ability to levitate the ship. You know, although the strength of 3 admirals plus 2 alternate admirals is very strong. But to be honest, this kind of strength is enough to deal with the Straw Hat Pirates and the Whitebeard remnants, let alone add a cross-union. And with the ability of gravity, you can advance, attack, retreat, or defend, maybe you can pick up a leak. With the ability to fly at this moment, the harsh currents of Wano-kuni cannot cause too much impact. The warship flew slowly towards Wano-kuni. And at the moment, Wano-kuni is on. In the open space between Julie and Flower City, the battle has intensified rapidly. Ghost Aura 9 swords flow Ashura sword draw. The flame-like red light on Zoro's body twisted, and behind him, the huge figure of Ashura emerged, with 3 heads and 6 arms, and 9 famous knives slashing mysterious and complicated traces in the air. At this moment, Zoro's clothes on the entire upper body have been completely torn. His strong and full muscles were covered with scars and blood flowed out, but his eyes did not change at all. In the hands of Yanmo and Tien Yuzan, the word Hidao in his mouth has completely turned into a black knife. This means that Zoro has completely completed his sublimation, the sublimation of the knife in his hand. Following his movements, Ashura's spirit behind him also followed suit. What a powerful spirit, Roronoa, your courage in the sword is even better than Shanks. Hawkeye is no longer elegant at this moment, his black top hat has been blown off, and there is a hideous knife mark on his chest. But he didn't have the slightest expression of pain, his entire face was filled with excitement and fighting spirit. What can be more exciting than a swordsman who has been on the top for several years and meets an evenly matched opponent? The stronger Zoro was, the more excited Hawkeye became. He was staring at the huge phantom of Ashura behind Zoro now, and he felt the long-lost feeling of possible defeat. However, in the face of this feeling, he has no fear at all. He also has the consciousness to win at the risk of life and death. Come on, use the knife in your hand to challenge. Hawkeye vigorously raised the big black sword Yi in his hand. Everything in the air seemed to be solidified, and there was only the cohesion between the 2 strongest swordsmen in the world. This world is divided into 9 heavens, whoever cuts through all the heavens can prove Ashura. Ashura Mysteries Demon Realm 1 Potion. The huge phantom of Ashura behind Zoro raised one arm, slashing towards Hawkeye with big eyes like a sword piercing through the sky. And at this moment, Zoro's figure has quickly disappeared in place. Facing this terrifying blow, Hawkeye remained silent, with a solemn expression on his face, holding the big black sword Yaya, which instantly turned into a black light and greeted Zoro. Clang. Boom. The sparks from the collision of the sword and sword splashed everywhere, and Sang's sword energy swept out like waves. The huge red knife shadow hit Hawkeye and Zoro, passing through without causing any damage. But the red knife shadow didn't cause substantial damage at all. This is the combination of Zoro's vigor and kendo, murderous aura, what cuts is not the body, but the heart. This is the path of Ashura that Zoro walked. The combination of a heart that has been tempered, and a skill that has been tempered. 2 potions. Another huge knife shadow smashed down. The knife in Zoro's hand became faster and faster, as if it could tear the air apart. 3 potions. Zoro's knife has turned into an afterimage, and the sound has been completely cut, without any sound coming out. Hawkeye couldn't help frowning. Coming to Ultimate, the swordsmanship of Ultimate is cumbersome, coupled with the shadow of the knife that can directly hit the soul, this road is really scary. 4 potions. 5 days. 6 broken days. Ashura Profound Meaning Demon Realm Ju Po Tien Proof. With Zoro roaring like between his teeth. The sword in his hand swung more and more frantically, reaching the ultimate speed. In this case, even observation Haki, who could predict the future, couldn't see clearly. Everything can only be resisted by intuition. Hawkeye had an excited smile on his face. The big black knife in his hand slashed heavily. If Zoro's attack is like a rainstorm, every raindrop represents an attack. Then Hawkeye's sword skill is that towering giant mountain, heavy, thick and indestructible. The collision of extreme slowness and extreme speed, the collision of simplicity and tediousness. 1 knife against 9 knives. 2 great swordsmen standing on completely different roads of swordsmanship have both reached the extreme point of their roads, this kind of collision of the peak of swordsmanship. In an instant, they passed by. Janbo, which was so bright as to shake the world, erupted between the figures of the 2 passing by. Like a bright ball of light, it spread rapidly and wiped out everything in the world. Get out of the way, everyone. Jinbei shouted loudly. He appeared in front of Usopp and all of them in an instant. Facing the bright and spreading sword waves, his face was solemn, and Lien shot. At this moment, Yamato did not take the opportunity to attack Jinbei, but chose to stand with Jinbei. After all, she is still Ace's friend. Marco also spread his blue flame wings, and Ace ignited a blazing flame in his hands. Murloc Karate, 50,000 right punches. Ming Dai. Fire punch. Boom. The 3 attacks were launched in an instant, like a siege cannon, creating a vacuum in front of him. Block that incomparably sharp sword wave. And the sword waves that passed over them wreaked havoc on everything around them. These are the 2 most powerful swordsmen in the sea. Their fatal strikes are so powerful that it is frightening. Who's winning? It must be Zoro. Usopp and Nami are nervous. No matter who wins, the two of them are the world's number 1 and number 2 sword masters, and this is definitely a duel that anyone will remember for a lifetime. Beasta said in shock from the side. As a swordsman, he is also a great swordsman whose kendo realm is so strong that even Hawkeye praises him. Seeing Hawkeye and Zoro's swordsmen confronting each other, Beasta felt extremely shocked. As a swordsman, that is the highest state. When all the smoke clears, two figures appeared in front of everyone. Void on Zoro. The shadow had completely dissipated, and his hands were forcefully turned behind his back. Yanmo and Tien Yu Zan stretched straight to the sky like two wings. On the pitch-black blade, drops of blood dripped down the blade. There were scars all over Zoro's body, and drops of blood quickly gathered under his body to form a small pool of blood. And on the other side, Hawkeye stood with a knife. The blood drops that fell from the big black sword made a small pit on the ground. His arm was full of blood. The state of the two of them at this moment has reached the ultimate level. Both are enough to lose life and serious injuries. Who won? Usopp asked in a very low voice, like a voice squeezed out of his teeth. Who is it? Both Chopper and Crocodile had already stopped, looking at Zoro and Hawkeye in the distance. This kind of competition for the world's number 1 swordsman. The wonderful sword fight is definitely enough to shock anyone. This is a precious memory, and looking back on it countless years later, it can still feel like it happened in yesterday's battle. Who is the number 1 swordsman in the world? Even Sanji and World looked in this direction. Everyone dared not speak loudly, for fear of disturbing this great scene, which is enough to be recorded in history. However, there was still no movement on both sides. Suddenly, Beasta shrank his pupils and said in shock. Both of them have lost consciousness. Beasta was so shocked that he could hardly speak. After the two swordsmen swung their most sublimated and strongest slash, they completely lost consciousness. It's just their awareness, their pride, and their will that support their bodies abruptly, allowing them to maintain the posture of standing and wielding a knife, even if they lose their will. Knowledge has never fallen. What kind of will and consciousness is this, these two people? Beasta opened his mouth wide, his voice was full of tremors, and he was almost speechless with excitement. He even had a feeling of wanting to cry at this moment. This is the pure kendo will of the two greatest swordsmen in the world, which is simply touching. Both of them must stop the bleeding immediately. Chopper looked at Zoro and Hawkeye, and rushed up. The injuries of both of them were very serious, and the amount of bleeding was terrible. If the bleeding was not stopped in time, even with their two monster-level bodies, it would be fatal. Really, is this the end result? Crocodile didn't stop Chopper's movement, but looked at Hawkeye with a smile on his face even though he was unconscious, and said calmly with his cigar in his mouth. What a joy, Li Lahao, eagle-eyed bastard. The battle for the world's number 1 swordsman came to an end. Did not come to a result. But in the hearts of all the people watching the game. Each of them is worthy to be called the world's number 1 swordsman. Whether it's swordsmanship, will, or awareness, these two kendo geniuses who were born with swords are pure kendo experts. Has the winner been decided over there? The winner is also decided here. Straw Hat Boy, you are too weak. Bullet laughed maniacally. The ability of the combined fruit was promoted by him to ultimate. The terrifying armament Haki, a huge four-handed robot, beat Luffy to the point where he couldn't fight back. Even the awakened rubber body. Luffy's injuries were still visible to the naked eye. Boom. A heavy kick directly landed on Luffy's stomach, sending him flying, smashing a hill into pieces. Is that the only level? Straw Hat Boy. Bullet yelled. Rumble. Pushing away the huge boulder on his body with one hand, Luffy stood up. Although his body was seriously injured, his eyes were very calm, and there was even an exaggerated smile on his face. I've come so far and developed second gear, third gear, the combination of second gear and third gear plus Haki, forming fourth gear, and later developed fifth gear. It's just that I have never been very clear about what kind of posture fifth gear is. It wasn't until just now that I figured it out. The fifth gear is not just a shift of mine, but the new me, which is equivalent to the original me. Luffy laughed and said, I'm such an idiot, I didn't realize this until now. What are you trying to say? Looking at Luffy who was laughing happily in front of him, Bullet suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He suddenly felt that there seemed to be something different about Luffy in front of him. Go ahead and enjoy, Bullet. Luffy smiled happily, with one hand resting on his knee and the other fist hammering the ground. Change gear, mouth gear. Chapter 108. The instantly killed Wangmu. Advertise here. As the voice fell, Luffy's calf stretched and stretched like a spring. A series of somewhat conspicuous lights appeared on Luffy's skin. If the fifth level of white light is an inexplicable light emanating from the inside out, then the light on the skin is a reflection of high-temperature steam leaking out of the skin. Through the elasticity of the rubber, can blood flow be increased like an air pump, thereby improving physical fitness. His blood flow speed has been further accelerated. Bullet's combat experience is so sophisticated that he can see the essence of Luffy's state at a glance. It's just that this still can't change his shocking heart at the moment. You know, Straw Hat Boy's fifth gear is already at the limit state of his body, and his speed and strength have greatly improved in all aspects. Now that it has become such a huge state, even if he is a rubber man, he has to bear great pressure. However, under such extreme pressure, he actually wanted to pressurize further. In this situation, it can only be said that he is simply a lunatic. A little carelessness, the terrifying blood flow is enough to burst his heart, even if he is a rubber man. However, I appreciate you more and more, Straw Hat Boy. Fighting itself is a kind of madness. Bullet said loudly. The medium-sized bullet he manipulated is now under the purple light, completely close to human nature, like the best in science fiction works. In this state, his medium-sized bullet has reached the highest level in terms of strength and flexibility. Saw. Let's fight. Bullet laughed maniacally. Even more frightening, the seemingly endless armament Haki came out directly through the body, covering the medium-sized bullet completely. His terrifying armament Haki actually slightly distorted the surrounding air, and the whole robot, from top to bottom, shone with a purple-black light. Boom 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 boom. The huge and heavy robot, when he accelerated, made a sound like a small earthquake. Bullet. Luffy, who entered 5th gear and shifted to 2nd, roared because of the sound. It seems that if you don't do this, you won't be able to release the pressure in your heart. Shifting from 5th to 2nd, as Bullet said, is an unimaginably huge burden on the body. If Luffy hadn't gone through a physical limit breakthrough, he might have exploded when he just used this move. What? Luffy's body, which was taller than ordinary giants, instantly disappeared in place. There were only 2 huge potholes left in place. It's unimaginable that 807 used such a technique of shaving with such a huge body. Whoosh. In just a split second, Luffy was behind Bullet. His lips were tight, and red steam was rising all over his body. It was the imagination that the blood flow was too fast, causing the blood and water vapor to be expelled from the body together. Luffy's right fist is charged, and the palm of his left hand is stretched straight forward. The fist of his right hand is like a bullet, and his left hand is like aiming. So fast. Among the robots, Bullet felt a chill in his heart. Luffy's figure had already been caught in his knowledge. But this fast refers to the fact that he was able to move at a speed like teleportation with that huge body, which is really terrifying. Jet. Pistol. Luffy looked calm, like back when Enies Lobby was playing against Rob Lucci. In the limit state of the body, the constant pain of being torn into the body surged into his heart, but this only made his will stronger. No matter how strong the pain is, he can't make him pass out, until the last moment of the battle, until the battle becomes blurred, he must continue to punch, this is his will. Boom. The huge right fist disappeared in an instant. Just like the bullets fired, people can't see the traces at all. When you see the traces, it's time to be hit by the bullets. Boom. A huge white sonic boom cloud explodes behind Bullet. His hard steel body, coupled with the armor-colored cover, was also dented in one blow at this moment. Speed is power. Luffy's strength has not been strengthened much, but his shooting speed is much faster than the previous simple 5-stage giant form. Bullet's huge and heavy robot was directly knocked out by a huge force. That's right, Straw Hat. The purple light flowed through, and the huge depression on the robot's body recovered in an instant. Bullet exclaimed excitedly. A purple light emerged, and he immediately had 2 more steel arms. Now he is like an octopus, with 6 steel arms that are unimaginably flexible, covering the terrifying armament Haki, and hitting Luffy. Bullet in the medium-sized bullet has blood oozing from his nose and mouth. Manipulating 6 arms and attacking at the same time, he has reached the limit state, including the full stimulation of the combined fruit, and the continuous withdrawal of armament Haki from the body. In the purple light of the combined fruit that he emitted, there was already a layer of blood. If you want to continue to become stronger in an already very powerful form, how can you not pay any price? The combined fruit optimization robot is not a real robot after all. The closer it is to a human form, the more flexible and stronger its movements will be. Now this kind of medium-sized Bullet's strongest posture, even with Bullet's tempered, monster-level physique, it is difficult to last for a long time. He and Luffy, who is in 5th gear and 2nd gear, are actually in the same situation. Finally 100 weapons, 6 cannons. Bullet roared. On the 6 mechanical arms, the terrifying armament Haki was covered, and the Conqueror's Haki was entwined, punching towards Luffy, and the air was torn apart. Rubber rubber. Jet, machine gun. 11. Luffy roared loudly, just like the last blow when Enies Lobby swung. With a violent blood mist, the fists on both sides of Luffy's body became faster and faster, like 2 machine guns. The fist is the barrel, and the wraps of armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki are the bullets. There is also a high-temperature flame produced by swinging a fist at high speed. Boom 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 boom. Unimaginable shock waves raged between heaven and earth. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and thick thunder and lightning lingered between the clouds. The strong wind howled between the heaven and the earth, and then was torn to pieces in an instant. The sea area around Wano became more and more violent, setting off huge waves, and the tsunami was like a roaring monster. This is the scariest duel in the entire sea, both sides are the most powerful geniuses, the scariest monsters. Hey, this is too exaggerated. The cigarette at the corner of Sanji's mouth has been swept away by the raging shockwave. He already had to be forced to fall from the sky, that kind of terrifying storm, staying in the air, is simply looking for death. It's really hard to imagine that simply relying on fists, they can actually hit a storm like a natural disaster. It's all fighting from a distance, the courage of those 2 people is too strong. Marco opened his mouth wide, watching the crazy collision in the distance. Every blow was the most terrifying Conqueror's entangled collision. The air attack completely distorted the air, and black and red lightning ravaged the entire battlefield. This is the most violent blow. Ah ah ah. Blood oozes from Bullet's mouth and nose, shouted loudly among the medium-sized bullets. Although his body was torn and severely wounded, there was an indescribable smile on his face, and his eyes were abnormally bright. This was the battle he was after. Ah ah ah. Luffy was also roaring loudly, the huge sound waves seemed to shake the whole world apart. His huge body burst out with blood from time to time, that was the limit of his body, a limit that even a rubber body could not resist. At this moment, both sides have already approached the ultimate limit. If no one stopped them, the two of them, the strongest, might end up with a complete loss. Even more serious, both of them will be in danger of life. It was also when everyone's eyes were drawn to this battle. Sanji and Usopp, the two very powerful observation Haki, frowned and looked towards the sky. They saw a marine warship flying in the air, as well as the terrifying and powerful several oars on that warship. Then please, Mr. Yishao. The green cow was smoking a cigarette, smiling like a fool. Standing on the warship, he said to Fujitora, "Are you really going to do this? Huang Mu, it's better to think about it carefully." Kizaru couldn't help but reminded. Although he was really unhappy with the tone and attitude of the Green Bull before, he wanted to teach him, CGBH, a lesson with the help of the Straw Hat Boy and the Cross Union. But he didn't expect the Green Bull to be so capable of killing. "I've already decided, mere pirate." With a cigarette in his mouth and his hands in his pockets, the green cow said defiantly. Seeing him like this, Kizaru sighed and didn't say anything, but motioned to Fujitora to let him feel relieved. So, ready. Fujitora drew out his sword and swung it vigorously at the Green Bull. Gravity knife, tiger. The purple gravitational fluctuations engulfed the Green Bull. Several purple gravitational rings exploded in the air to accelerate, broke through the sonic boom in an instant, and slammed into the center of the battlefield between Luffy and Bullet. Damn it, it's too late to stop it. Sanji's vision of the future sees a short future. But the distance is too far, and the acceleration of gravity is too fast. The Green Bull has arrived in an instant. Forbidden Monk Sensen. Accompanied by a man's voice, a huge tree ant appeared directly not far from Luffy and Bullet. His huge tree ant body moved quickly towards Luffy and Bullet, raised the tree fist attached to armament Haki, and slammed it down towards them. Straw Hat Boy, Douglas Bullet, I will accept your head. The Green Bull roared excitedly. Who are you, bastard? Don't interfere with our fight. Go away X2. Luffy and Bullet are at the moment when they are fighting to the limit. At this moment, the intervention of the Green Bull makes them instantly angry. Luffy and Bullet seem to have a heart-to-heart connection. The most terrifying blow that has accumulated such an imposing manner, hit the Green Bull at the same time. Medium Bullet, the ultimate cannon. Rubber, Jet Industrial Fire Siege Cannon. Two incomparably terrifying attacks came in front of the Green Bull in an instant. The Green Bull seemed to see two huge fists that could block the entire world moving towards. When he hit himself, the shadow of death instantly enveloped his heart. That's not right, the strength of these two pirates seems to be much stronger than that of Admiral. Etc. Etc. The green cow panicked for a moment, and cold sweat oozes directly from the face of the huge tree. Next moment, boom. The terrifying shock wave from the two fist shadows almost penetrated obliquely upwards, completely submerging Lu Sheng's figure. The terrifying shock wave, like a beam of light, shot straight upwards towards the sky, penetrating to the end of the field of vision. Everyone who saw the existence of this blow couldn't help feeling rejoicing in their hearts. Fortunately, this blow did not hit the ground of Wano Kuni, otherwise, the entire Wano Kuni would be wiped out. Part up. When everything goes away, the huge tree man just now disappeared completely like a bubble. Hey, what was that just now? Luffy panted heavily, his whole body seemed to be wet with blood. Accompanied by violent panting, his huge body was also rapidly shrinking. The blow just now was already the last extreme blow of his state. Now he can no longer bear the state of Rubber Giant and the blessing of Shift 2. Hoo, I don't know, it's too weak, it disappeared in an instant. Bullet was also panting heavily, his body was also blood red. Accompanied by violent panting, the huge medium-sized bullet fell down piece by piece. The large pieces of steel on the chest have been melted into molten iron, and 5 of the 6 flexible mechanical arms have been broken. Moreover, Bullet's spirit at the moment is no longer able to manipulate the medium-sized bullet. He has also reached the limit of the limit. Both Luffy and Bullet looked at each other, breathing heavily, although the final limit collision was broken by a bastard who appeared out of nowhere. But their battle isn't over yet. The bastard who disrupted the situation is here. Crocodile was smoking a cigar, looking at the sky with a gloomy face. He raised his hand and raised a sandstorm. The next moment, 4 stars was pierced by the laser. However, because of the obstruction of the sandstorm, the laser was also turned to one side, passing by the side of Chopper, and a bright shock wave erupted. Oh, Crocodile, you were defeated by the Straw Hat Pirates and imprisoned in Imper Prison. Now you actually help the Straw Hat Pirates. It's really strange. Standing on the flying warship, Kizaru spoke in a somewhat wretched tone. Even if I'm defeated, that's the hatred between us. What does it have to do with you Marines? Don't think that you Marines can intervene in anything at will. Crocodile was smoking a cigar, looked at Kizaru, and said calmly. Crocodile is such a person. He can play tricks and scheming, he can deceive others to achieve his own goals, and he can also attack civilians ruthlessly. He's a bastard schemer and careerist. But at the same time, he also has the chivalry of the old school pirates. He has friendship, and he will not let Marine do whatever he wants in front of him. Even if it is an opponent, he will not sit back and watch Kizaru make a sneak attack in front of him. Crocodile. Usopp couldn't help but have a different impression of Crocodile. If it's nonsense, you don't need to say it out. Straw Hat Pirates, first just hate Marine, not to save you, I've been thought too much. Crocodile said proudly, although you are usually a bastard, you are still a righteous bastard. Marco spread his blue wings and flew to Crocodile's side, smiling. If you want to provoke me, I can fight you now, Marco. Crocodile looked sideways at Marco beside him, and said with murderous intent in his voice. Don't get me wrong, I didn't say this sentence, it was my father's. Marco said with a smile on his face. And Crocodile was slightly taken aback, slightly absent-minded, and then said after a pause, what an unlikable evaluation, that bastard Whitebeard. Ace, take care of Zoro and the others, and the Marine will be handed over to us. Marco said loudly. How can the bastards like Marine intervene in the battle of the pirates? It's really troublesome. I didn't really want to fight. Kizaru said helplessly. It's just that in this case, they must rescue Huang Mu. Otherwise, Admiral, who was recruited just now, would have been folded in Wano Kuni immediately, which would be too embarrassing. Chapter 109 The Suppressed Kizaru, Fujitora Shot. Advertise here. The voice fell. Kizaru's figure turned into a light spot and disappeared in an instant, and then condensed in midair. His hands were crossed on both sides of his body, and bright lights shone on his fingers. 8 feet. If I were you, I wouldn't make a move. A calm voice sounded from behind Huang Yuan in an instant. At some point, Sanji's figure appeared behind Kizaru. His hands were inserted into his pockets, black twisted flames were already burning on his feet. Blackfoot Sanji. The light in Kizaru's hands dissipated, and the sunglasses on his face shone slightly, making it difficult to see his specific expression, but from his tone, one could clearly feel his solemnity. Hereby. For a moment, the figures of the two disappeared in midair in an instant. The bright golden streamer collided with a black fireball rapidly in the air. With every collision, terrifying golden streamers and bursts of black flames can erupt. That speed has exceeded the limit of human vision, even observation Haki, it is difficult to capture the two figures in the air. After several extremely fast collisions, Photon condensed on the ground, and opposite him, was Sanji burning with black twisted flames. The figures of the two moved across the ground like this, always maintaining a fixed position. Your speed and strength are even greater than last time. What a terrifying monster, Blackfoot Sanji. Kizaru looked serious, put his hands in his pockets, just looked at Sanji and said. Although he didn't suffer from the collision in a short period of time just now, it is obvious that the third in command of the Straw Hat Pirates is completely different from the sense of oppression brought by the last fight. Last time, he could clearly feel his immaturity, and the gap in speed and strength. But this time, the opponent seems to have undergone another evolution, not only completely complementing the shortcomings, but also making Kizaru feel a deep sense of danger. I did grow a lot, not only in speed and strength, but more, Kizaru, come and try. Sanji said calmly, I'm going to make an exquisite platter on your wretched face. No, plastic surgery might be better. After all, I already have experience in this field. That's really nerve-wracking, I'm quite satisfied with my current face. Kizaru touched his chin, his tone was flirtatious, and he looked even more obscene. Unfortunately, if I say that I didn't want to fight, would you believe me? It's already reached this level, what's the use of saying that? Yes, then, let's fight. Kizaru pulled his hands, and a photon-like long sword appeared in his hand instantly, Tianyan from the sword. After all, the old man has not retired yet. Devil Fengjiao, enjoy it, I have prepared a personalized package for you. Black flames instantly ignited at Sanji's feet, and the distorted flames erupted on the spot. He instantly turned into a pillar of fire, and his figure dissipated. It's a new age of monsters, and it's a headache. Kizaru lowered his head slightly and sighed, then his figure instantly turned into a bright streamer. Hereby, the two figures dissipated in an instant, and then collided in an instant. Kizaru directly slashed towards Sanji with his sword, as fast as a flash. However, a red light flashed in Sanji's eyes, and he dodged the sword directly sideways. No, it cannot be said to be avoided. It was more like the moment he kicked out, Kizaru split the air. You are too slow, Kizaru, I have seen everything about you. Sanji kicked out, and the kick wrapped in black twisted flames seemed to burn a vacuum in the air. Devil's Wind Foot, Skewered Shoot. Hereby, with one kick, Kizaru instantly turned into a stream of bright light and shot into a hill. Boom. The violent orange-red explosion light wave diffused, and the figure of the ape turned into streamer and condensed. On the yellow and white striped suit on his chest, there was a burnt black leather shoe footprint. Even if he turned into a photon and wanted to avoid it at that moment, it was still a bit late, but fortunately, he didn't suffer too serious injuries. You are really good looking, you still like this, elementalize to avoid damage. But, should you remember, this is in battle, don't be distracted. Sanji's figure suddenly appeared behind Kizaru like an afterimage, his eyes flashed with red light, kicked out, and the flame twisted and burned in the air. At this moment, Kizaru's always wretched and calm expression, King Zhong showed a moment of surprise and panic. But his sparkling fruit speed is still here. In just a split second, he turned around and kicked behind him. Hereby, countless bright golden streamers sputtered and spread from the center of the collision, and then set off bursts of explosive waves on the surrounding snow. Boom! The golden fire and streamer collapsed. Sanji's body didn't move away, but Kizaru's body moved back several meters. Instant fights, extremely fast attacks and collisions. Sanji actually suppressed the yellow monkey. Although this is also related to Kizaru himself starting to underestimate the enemy, but there is no doubt about it. Compared with the last Summit War, Sanji's strength has already had a huge breakthrough. Last Summit War, the initiative was in Kizaru's hands, Sanji just held him back. And now, Sanji thinks, he might beat Kizaru head-on. Their strength has already completely stood at the same level. Kizaru has the speed and power provided by the mighty sparkling fruit, while Sanji's Conqueror's Haki is all around superior. It's hard to imagine that Blackfoot actually suppressed Admiral Kizaru. The members of the Whitebeard Pirates watched this scene in shock at the moment. Obviously, during the Summit War, Blackfoot's strength still had a certain gap with Kizaru, but now, it is obvious that he can even begin to suppress Admiral Kizaru. And Jinbei is also, during the Summit War, it was still an ordinary Shichibukai level of combat power. But since he joined the Straw Hat Pirates, he seems to have turned into a monster, and now the fluctuations in his shots make Marco feel ashamed. That's Admiral level power. What kind of monster pirate group is this? The captain has the strength of the 4 emperors, the vice captain is on par with the world's #1 swordsman, and now the third in command can suppress Admiral. Jinbei has the power to stop Admiral. This pirate group is equivalent to a top-level power. King's Pirates is no exaggeration at all. At least from the perspective of someone like Marco who has dealt with Luogia. The Straw Hat Pirates do have the strength to fight the Luogia Pirates. This is about the One Piece pirate group that really reached its peak after Kazuki Oden joined the Luogia pirate group. One can imagine how pervert the current Straw Hat Pirates are. This country has recently gained hope, and I really don't want to destroy this hope, but the old man also has his own burdens, so he has to take action. Standing on top of the warship, Fujitora opened his eyes full of whites, as if he could see something looming over Wanokuni's sky. Being blind in both eyes allowed this benevolent and righteous man to see more clearly. Clang! The stick knife is out of its sheath. Slash through the air. Several purple rings extended beyond the entire sky in an instant. Momosuke and the T-Dolphin on the side looked puzzled. Is this a shot? Why didn't they feel any fluctuations? The Green Bull has been killed in seconds. Momosuke and the T-Dolphin want to see what level of power this last extraordinary admiral from the world's conscription has. Being able to jump over both of them in one leap is awarded the rank of admiral. However, when they were wondering, a heavy sonic boom sounded from the sky. Momosuke and the T-Dolphin looked up. At this moment, even though they were substitutes for admiral, they couldn't help being shocked by the scene in front of them. What is that? Meteorite. I saw an extremely huge meteorite, under the friction of the air, like a huge fireball, smashing towards the bottom. The terrifying pressure, like the shadow brought by the meteorite, weighed on everyone's heart. A small gift is not a respect. Fujitora jumped down from the warship and fell towards the ground with the meteorite. It's too exaggerated, this kind of attack. Marco opened his mouth wide, looked at the huge meteorite, and said in shock. Among Marine, is there such a strong person? Joes looked at Fujitora who jumped off the warship with a solemn expression. Hey, Straw Hat boys, I'll leave the big guy to you, and I'll take care of the Marine. World's figure flashed by Jinbei's side, and then went straight towards Lihu in the air. World ability is not very suitable for dealing with such a large-scale attack. His ability and physical skills are more suitable for dealing with a single strong person. Of course, if there are cannons, that's another story. Jinbei separated his feet and took a deep breath. Facing this incomparably huge meteorite, he didn't have the slightest fear. He stretched out his webbed palm vigorously, and the surrounding snowflakes, as well as the snow melted by the fierce battle, all gathered towards Jinbei at this moment. Murloc Jiu-Jitsu, Water Heart, Sea Current over shoulder throw. Jinbei held a water polo with both hands, as if throwing it over his shoulder, he threw the water polo out directly. The moment the water polo was thrown out, the snowflakes all over the sky, and the snow water on the ground, seemed to be drawn. In an instant, it turned into a huge water column, heading towards the meteorite in the air. The turbulent and huge snow water extinguished the huge meteorite in an instant, and the tyrannical impact force even made the meteorite smaller. Thunder 8 trigrams. A slender and tall figure jumped up directly behind Jinbei. The mace in his hand smashed towards the meteorite in the sky in one breath, pure terror and violence, wrapped in lightning, smashed the huge meteorite to pieces. What an unreasonable attack, Jinbei said with a solemn expression. This is a meteorite attack, and the destructive power it causes is very strong. This person should be an admiral-level strongman just recruited by the Marine World Recruitment. Although there have been rumors before, I didn't expect that Zurin really made Marine recruit this level of Shingtu. Ask for flowers. Marco looked at Fujitora in the distance and couldn't help but said. This level of strength, solid Admiral level. And it seems that his ability is also very terrifying. This time, Marine has found a treasure. And at this moment, in the distance, the world has come to Fujitora. Marine. Quote. World roared loudly. He raised his hand, several steel balls wrapped around the terrifying armament Haki, and directly hit Fujitora. Momo 100 times faster. In an instant, the steel ball's already terrifying initial velocity erupted into a terrifying sonic boom. Gravity knife, tiger. Although Fujitora can't see things, his observation Haki is very powerful, and he senses the attack in front of him in an instant. It seems that it is not a stick knife in the hand, but something very heavy. The messy and distorted purple light was thrown back by Fujitora in one breath. In the air, a thick purple tiger blade light was formed. Boom. The terrifying impact scattered. The strength of the steel ball in the speed blessing is still unable to compete with the gravity wave after all. The purple tiger roared, devoured all the steel balls, and then rushed towards the world in a raging manner. However, World's figure just flashed like a teleportation, and the purple tiger knife wave brushed past him. He could clearly feel the terrifying power contained in the purple tiger. Gravity fruit. The split-second fight allowed World to see clearly the essence of Fujitora's ability. It's really a difficult ability. Zero. World's face was serious. Momo is 100 times faster. Boom. A huge sonic boom sounded. The figure of World came to Fujitora in an instant. Before such a terrifying speed, he punched out. Boom. Although Fujitora blocked the sword in front of him in time, the violent impact still smashed his body into the soil. Before a smile appeared on World's face, his expression changed instantly. He felt a heavy pressure suddenly enveloped his body. Whoosh. Under the acceleration of the Momo fruit, the world instantly disappeared in place. On the spot, a huge pothole immediately appeared, which was forced out by the terrifying gravity. Can it strengthen the gravity around itself? World feels a bit tricky. What annoys him most is this kind of large-scale ability users. Especially for Fujitora, an ability user who can't predict the attack direction and attack range at all, he is not friendly to him in his current state. If it was when he was young, he could completely rush in with a full body armed and colored cover. But it can't work now. After being frozen for 30 years, his physical fitness and courage have suffered a lot of regression. When he was young, he had the strength to fight with Whitebeard Luo Jia and Golden Lion, but now he can feel the difficulty in facing the Admiral level. As everyone knows, when World felt that Fujitora's ability was tricky, Fujitora was also tightly holding the sword in his hand. He can't see, and all he can rely on is observation Haki. However, World's Momo fruit ability accelerates the speed too fast. The instant acceleration has completely broken through the capture of Fujitora's knowledge, and he is really like a blind man facing the world now. When he can't catch it, he can only rely on his fighting intuition to judge the direction of World's attack. This is a very difficult and dangerous thing. Under the fear of each other, the two sides formed a strange confrontational balance. Mr. Yishao is really powerful. Jinbei said in a deep voice. As long as this old man is here, Marine's people will not be allowed to attack Brother Zoro. Add me. Green Bull, who was also awarded the title of Admiral by the world's great conscription, is much inferior. Momosuke said. Give it to me. The other party showed a few hands. This strength is indeed above the two of them, and it is only natural to become Admiral by virtue of their strength. She is well aware that Wano-kuni is a non-Confederate country and is not under the protection of the Marine. Crocodile was smoking a cigar, looking solemnly at the two people who were rushing towards this side. Already transformed into the form of Dako True God, the elegant and sacred Yamato opened his mouth with a mace in his hand. Marine alternate Admiral Momosuke and T-Dolphin. They are also two difficult monsters. The terrifying blow just now instantly killed the Green Bull. She didn't want to follow in the footsteps of the Green Bull. Mr. Pelusolino and Mr. Yishao have already taken action, we shouldn't just sit back and watch. Just for comparison. Then she jumped off the boat first, and stepped on the moonwalk towards Zoro. If Roronoa Zoro and the former Shichibukai Hawkeye can be caught, then their action this time has already made a lot of money. On the contrary, here, Luo Zoro is already in a coma. Momosuke and Shifu have convinced Fujitora by now. The straw hats are horrible.